YouTube. It's Brian Phillips. Feels like it's been forever since we did an unbox, so we're gonna do one right now. Super small one. Oh! Yeah, there it is. So you may have noticed some stickers or some tape. Mm-hmm. Should we show them before or after?
Well, that's before.
We're gonna unbox this thing.
Okay.
And it's gonna be amazing, but we have a couple of interesting things to share while we're unboxing. It's gonna be cool. Yeah, HobbyKing.com. So this is gonna be our return to HobbyKing, okay? Let's hope it's good.
Return to HobbyKing.
Return to HobbyKing.
Okay.
This has been in the works for a year and a half, roughly, right?
Well, a year.
And then we talked to him at Joan All again to kind of refresh, and things got worked out, and now we're gonna be doing this. We're gonna start with the Yak-11. Amazing! Okay, first things first, HobbyKing has a few different lines. Back when we very first started our channel, we did a lot of HobbyKing stuff. We got away from it after a while, and we're coming back. We're gonna see if there have been improvements. We have been told there's been some improvements from Stuart, and we're excited to be able to work with them, and hopefully the improvements are not just in name only. So changes in name only, we'll find out. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We're all about truth in the RC experience, which works really good when you're trying to help people buy things. Okay, you're gonna grab that end, I'm gonna grab this end. I've got the suction problem.
Yes, it's going now.
Hey, don't pull, don't pull. Thank you, just go up. There we go. So we're gonna unbox this, we're gonna build it, we're gonna do the radio setup. This is what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We show the entire process from getting it off the doorstep to in the air. And that's what we've done for years. Some companies think that that is lame-o, and other people think it's very valuable. And we think, we don't care what they think, we care what you think. And since you keep asking for it, we're gonna keep doing it. Even though it makes for a super short video.
Yes.
That's a joke. In case you were wondering, our long format content is some of the longest format you can have. We are longer than feature presentation movies, okay? And we're proud of that because that's what you guys want, and we give you what you want.
We are.
I don't know about that.
Did you cut that little piece of tape that was down on that end?
That was, I checked. Okay, so real quick, wingspan, 1,450 millimeters, so 57 inches. It's like 1,300 millimeters long, or 51 inches. It's got a 50-52, 550 kV motor. That is a big motor. So by the way, if you guys didn't know this, that speaks to 50 millimeters by 52 millimeters, okay? So 50 millimeters by 52 millimeters, so it's a little longer than it is wide. And flight weight is 2,900 to 3,100, so this is not sub 250, ironically. I mean, from the box,
shocking.
You might have been able to tell that. Battery recommended or required is 5,000 to 6,000 milliamp hour, 6S50C plus, okay? So this comes with everything you need, with the exception of the receiver and the battery, because this is PNP or PNF, plug and fly, plug and play, I don't know. It's one of those things. But anyway, getting back to the point, why are we working with HobbyKing? Because they have airplanes that I want to do, and so I'm excited to work with them. And they also have a paramotor, which I'm hoping they'll eventually send, so we can do that. Because I do fly powered paragliders. And at least 10 times I have. I need more practice. I need to go back to the training place and get more skilled training.
Yeah.
So I don't accidentally die.
Right.
This is like really hard to open.
And they have lots of...
Can you grab that side and just do the same thing we did before? Don't pull it towards you, just straight up.
My box is dented down here, so that's not
Yours is dented,
helping.
so it's getting stuck.
Yeah, it's like
So guys,
over.
I could rip this thing off in like 3 seconds, but I'm trying to keep everything intact. I do prefer foam boxes, by the way, full disclosure. We just did a plane, one of the most beautiful and one of the more expensive planes. It's right over there, actually, you can show them. Mm-hmm. We just did that the other day, J3 Cub from Hangar 9, and it was beautiful, but it has a cardboard box. I'm not a big fan of that, okay? So I would rather have a pain in the butt opening and have a higher level of confidence in damage-free delivery, okay? Which we don't have any damage on J3 Cub, but this thing feels like it's gonna be really well packed, okay?
Looks like
and admittedly, back when we were doing HobbyKing stuff, we didn't have a lot of problems with stuff getting damaged. So, not in shipping. It was just more that, you know, they didn't have enough power. Maybe it was like lower quality finish or a little bit more work than we expected. And so we're hoping that these things are going to be better in the more recent vintage from their different brands.
Well, and your piloting abilities have changed
Yes,
a lot
because I'm a lot better pilot.
Yeah.
And truthfully, that was one of the biggest issues is, you know, when I was brand new pilot, I was operating on a tight pilot budget. And you know what, like $200-300 a month, maybe $500 on a really good month.
Yeah, probably not
that my wife knew about.
Oh, see.
But I was spending that much on stuff. I still have tons of stuff from HobbyKing that I still use on a routine basis. Let me give you one example, guys. This is what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We show it all. The whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. Like stuff like this, balance boards, plugs, ends. Like nobody uses these anymore. Hextronics 4.5 millimeter. I don't think anybody uses them.
You used to spend like weekends. making HobbyKing orders.
I would. It was ridiculous.
Supplies.
Like 400 little items.
Yes.
And they had really good prices, which by the way, I'm not poo-pooing that because when you're new, you need a lot of stuff, okay? But just remember, I've learned a few things in my 10 years of doing this or so. I've been into RC my whole life, but you know, there's times when I was very busy doing it and there's times when I've been kind of like on a lull. In our early married life, we didn't have money. So like, I couldn't afford to do it. So I think I had like one helicopter for like many, many years. This would be like an example of like China glue, you know? You might get mucilage from them. Or this is from Horizon. So we used to use China glue. Or you might want to buy adapters like this. That's one of the things that I'm constantly using supplies like that. Red wire, black wire, heat shrink, XT60 connectors, XT90 connectors.
Yep.
Every type of connector. And that's why I'm always talking about the name of connectors so you guys don't have to look it up. It's very hard to look up connectors for batteries. So here on Brian Phillips RC, we want to teach you a little bit so you can get some value out of it. But we're here to unbox this plane. And I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of getting into the weeds on this, but that looks really nice actually. First thing I noticed about this wing is it's beautiful.
Oh,
the second thing I noticed about it is there's not a flap. Oh. Yes, there is. It's a split flap. So cool. Okay, my experience with split flaps is that if a plane in real life has split flaps, then I want the model to have split flaps. Looks like heavy duty hinging. Ball link on a flap. Well, that's kind of weird. Ball link on an aileron. That's not weird. Beautiful looking land. This nav light has molded shape to it, so it's gonna look right. It's kind of ugly glue though. Beautiful finish here. Not a lot of mold release bumps. Kind of messy. This must be thin there. Yeah, because that's where the servo is. A little bit of overspray, doesn't bother me. Softer tires, feel that. That's awesome.
Oh,
Love
nice.
it, guys.
Nice.
Super excited. And then a breakout board right here, which is really nice. So in the, I don't know if there's just like one extra wire here that got taped in. Looks like that goes to probably the landing gear. Yeah, that goes to landing gear. But yeah, look at that. There's all that stuff going on, but I don't know why this is taped here. That seems like kind of an afterthought. So that's weird. But in terms of strength, it's got a little bit of twist to it, a little bit of give here. It's sturdy from here back. It's sturdy. The decals are applied for us. I don't have to do that, which is nice. There might be more decals too. This feels light. The density is probably like middle of the road, okay? Like FMS, E-Flight, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit more dense. That's a little bit softer, okay? Softer foam for what it's worth, guys. That means it's gonna be needing more reinforcement, but it's gonna be more forgiving, okay? Work that hinge, guys. Exercise. That's called exercising the hinge. That's a pinch hinge. But then it's got a pivot. Does it?
Are there reinforcements in
No, there's not. It looks like at one point they were thinking about it.
Oh.
And then they decided not to do it. That's just a pinch hinge. Here, 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 here. Very weird. Huh. Not a lot of reinforcement, got a little wiggle. Okay, so what we're talking about here on Brian Phillips RC is we want to show you the whole scope of the quality of this airplane, okay? Sometimes you'll see things like that where you got a little twist in the elevator and it translates to wonky like rolls. And other times it translates to nothing because you have enough strength in other parts of the plane. Or there's like a wing joiner or something that puts two halves together and it adds strength. That's a one-piece horizontal stabilizer. That prop is huge.
Wow.
16.6E, good Lord.
Goodness gracious.
That is huge, but look how thick it is at the wing, at the cord.
Yeah.
Like that's thick. It looks good, but it looks sloppy here. Look at this, big chunks of stuff. I just knocked them off with my finger. It's not very sharp out here. It's sharp on the trailing edge, but it's, you guys see what I'm talking about? There's like little knobs, little nobules. So I wonder if that'll be balanced. But either way, beautiful. We see it all, okay? Here on Brian Phillips RC. So we don't hide nothing for nobody. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a problem. We just point out what we see and what our experience is. And sometimes our experience is great, sometimes it's terrible. That is a heavy spinner, holy cow.
Okay. Oh, it is.
Yeah, like it's heavy.
Yeah.
Why is it so heavy? Good Lord. Look how thick that is.
Did they do that for weight?
Maybe they needed nose weight, but this thing is like...
It is really heavy.
I don't understand why it's so heavy. Let's see if it even goes. Look at that.
Does it twist?
What the heck? Can I flatten it?
Don't bend it.
I don't want to break it, but look at that. Why?
Set it down on the counter. Is it as off
You
as
see
it looks?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like crazy off. Let's see if I can flatten it. Put it in the oven and flatten it.
Oh,
but what I'm saying is this is supposed to go into that channel there. There it goes.
Oh, there it goes.
There it goes. But look at that. Look at that nasty gap. Ugh. Okay, that's the sort of stuff we find, okay? And for that reason, some of the manufacturers don't like working with us because we're gonna point out what we see, and what we see is what you're about to see when you buy it from the links in the video description below. If you wanna help support Brian Phillips RC, then you can buy any of the planes that we feature on this channel, and then actually more. There'll be more planes that come in the near future. But our understanding is, basically, if we're doing a video, you guys are interested in buying it because you're watching the video, okay? We're gonna help you get to the bottom of if it's everything that the manufacturer says it's gonna be. Because at the end of the day, anybody can make something, put it online, and sell it like it's the best thing since sliced bread. It's not that hard to do that, okay? But what's hard is it gonna be good when you get it?
Right.
That's what we're gonna help you with. And if this thing is, let's say that it shows like a 10 on the website, and then you get it and it's like a 7, are you gonna be pissed off? Yeah, probably. Because your cost is gonna be contingent on, oh, there must be a gun that goes here. See that? Mm-hmm. Your cost is, there's a little dihedral on this. They are heavy duty, look at this. These are heavy duty. And I like the mechanism. I'm a little weirded out by the singular screw though. That's strange. It's unusual. And these new design features are neither here nor there. Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's definitely new to us, okay? So we're just gonna keep going through the unbox. Again, this is the Yak-11. We haven't done a Yak before, but it does kind of strike me as similar to like the T7, the Texan. It's gotta be in that same vintage. Wow, it's a basswood or plywood wing spar.
That is weird.
We haven't seen that before, not on a foamy. Okay, so then they put holes in it to make it actually lighter, and then they veneered them together. So they made us a V-lamb.
Yeah. Gosh, you're making me nervous.
Well, if it breaks, I'd rather it break in my hands. But yeah, that's gonna set the dihedral. Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
We've seen that before, but it's usually built into the wing. Well, if that was the size of the box, you'd have a huge box, guys. And that's the other thing too. Remember, HobbyKing is going through this metamorphosis. They're trying to kind of get back into the place where they would like to be, where they have more market share, they're selling more planes, all that stuff. And so to be honest with you, Brian Phillips RC, if you work with Brian Phillips RC, we feel like that's great because obviously we have these people watching our channel that love this stuff. Okay, so let's talk about this for a sec. Ball ink, brass, plastic. Is that strong? I don't know. That makes me a little nervous. That is a huge rudder and it's very thick, but then it's just a pinch hinge it looks like. Might be reinforced. Kind of hard to tell. Look, that wiggle's really free if it's not reinforced. It could be reinforced. There might be a CA hinge in there. That's what I'm thinking it is. But I didn't have to put it in. I like that a lot. Also, this is like a nut zert here, and it goes back and it tees into the foam, so that helps hold it into the body. And you can see here just the softness of the foam. I'm gonna do this down here because I know that'll be covered. But you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Like it's got a little bit of give to it. That's good if you want resilience. It's bad if you want a tight, close fit, okay? And in our experience, we used to see a lot of foam planes that were like that. And now it's gotten to the point where everybody is making a more high density foam, and that's good for stiff wings and less wing rock and things like that. But it's bad because the first time you do something, they crack. What do we have here? Oh, we have a bag of goodies.
Oh, okay.
Looks like the prop adapter, a couple of wing plugs, and it looks like on those breakouts go out to the receiver probably. Oh, cool. So the wing connectors, looks like whatever these exhaust pipes are maybe, and then there's an antenna or gun. It looks like an antenna. Tail dragger, soft. Look at that, love it.
Let me show the people.
And then this is for the wings, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, show the people there. And then this says quick setup guide, okay? So we've got right here, just a single page, kind of shows you how to set the thing up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the center of gravity, that's critical. This shows you how much deflection for each of the surfaces, okay? Also talks about what batteries they recommend. Ironically, they recommend a bigger battery than what the box says. 5,000 to 6,000, what they suggested. They're suggesting a Turnigy heavy duty. And by the way, we're not using Turnigy batteries. You know why?
Because we don't
have
any.
I used to use Turnigy batteries, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm gonna say there's something right with what we've used over the years. We've been very happy with smart batteries, and that's why, because we have a crap load of them. And all I can say is this, even with smart batteries, we still have found that you get 3, 4, 5 years out of them. If you're lucky, 5 years. If you're not lucky, 2.5, 3 years. And we keep them charged, and then we auto discharge them at the longest duration you can do, which is 240 hours, okay?
Yep.
Now, if you want the best case scenario from your batteries, charge them on Friday, get ready to fly on Saturday, let's say, and then if you don't use them, discharge them. Well, how do you discharge them? You use the charger, you waste more power through the charger, and you just burn it off in heat, okay? I hate doing that, it drives me nuts. I need to come up with a system that I can use to plug all those batteries in series and like run something useful. Because I hate the fact that I've paid for power to charge them, and then I use that power for nothing. Smart batteries do the same thing, they just do it automatically. Dumb batteries, you have to actually discharge, okay? Here we go.
Oh, cool.
Very nice, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and tip this to show you it's empty, okay, before I lay it down. Nice packaging, really easy to, really protected, but not super easy to open the box, okay? All right, and by the way, I gotta say, the bags around everything is nice. I appreciate that stuff. Foam to protect the foam from foam sometimes can slip, and so I prefer the bags. The bags are nice. Look, serviceability. We got some, what are those?
Oh, do you want me to
I can't read that. Can you read that?
It's a,
Why don't you go to the other side, because
they're upside down.
oh,
This
it's
side.
digital servos. Yeah, so that's the elevator, huge push rods, elevator and steerable, looks like the rudder and elevator. This is probably the rudder. Wait, I don't know which one's which. I guess when we put it together, we'll find out.
This will be the elevator.
Yeah, that's the elevator. The rudder's over here. Yep, good point. And then, of course, we can see the motor, which is kind of cool. So we'll just slide this out. Looks like the decals kind of have that, like, you know, maybe not like super well pressed down feel to them, but they are just sticky adhesive, so you can press them down and get rid of that. You see the honeycombing? You can take that out if you press, okay? But then you get these nasty edges here, like here. I found that the easiest way to fix that is just take the edge of your fingernails if they're trimmed. If they're super long, you gotta be careful, you might damage the foam. You can just press those in, okay? I like not putting decals on, so this is great. I'm very happy. Good job, HobbyKing. Beautiful. As far as I'm concerned, if they do a good job at the factory, I don't want to touch it. I just want it to be done right, okay?
Yeah.
And we have found that in our personal experience, a lot of times the trade-off is, you know, you are expected to do so much of the assembly anymore, and it's like stuff that you shouldn't have to do. Like for instance, one of our biggest gripes is control arms. Obviously, if you don't have this installed, you gotta mount the ball link. Which, by the way, let's look at this ball link real quick. I just noticed something. You see this? You're in my light. Go here. See this? That's not spun, so I'm just trying to see if I can spin it. There you go. It's got some paint on it. If your ball link has paint on it, you might have to scrape your balls off with an X-Acto knife. Ooh.
Careful.
Okay, so I like that I don't have to do it. Oh boy, we got damage.
Uh-oh. Oh, shoot.
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if we can pop it out. Ooh, that is a huge motor. 50, 20, 550 kV, sport. Huge.
That's gigantic.
Motor mount feels good. It looks like balsa wood, or not balsa wood, but basswood maybe. Okay, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna support two sides, and I'm gonna use my pinky to pull this out. Yep, I pulled it out, but that ain't ever gonna be right.
Right.
Not perfect. Here's how you fix it. If you wanna fix it, you can take heat to it, and you can probably get it perfect. But I'm not gonna. It's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Okay, I would be pissed though. I'd be pissed if this was like my only plane. By the way, the alignment here is maybe not perfect. Release, lift.
It's gonna need a piece of tape, isn't it?
See this? I like the instruments, that's super cool.
Oh yeah, nice.
Okay, so I'm pulling up and it's like resisting, and I don't know if I need to pull this forward. Oh, it pulls forward. Well, that is kind of cool. You can get right in there, like if you want to do FPV stuff. But I gotta say, that is gonna be very, very hard to see through if you're trying to FPV.
Yeah, probably so.
Okay, battery tray, huge, open, broad opening, huge strap. Good Lord, look at that, how thick that is. Love it.
That's gigantic.
Big ESC, elevator here, rudder here, okay. Just some tape to kind of hold those in place. Looks like this is, that says elevator, ELV, and then this must be rudder, which, I mean, process of elimination, not a big deal. So I'm just gonna actually take these and just tape them together. Oh, and then also we have XT90 connector here, okay? So XT90, of course, is larger than an XT60. It's supposed to handle 90 amps of current, hypothetically. And we have some wires up here. Now, you can stuff that battery up in there, but you got all these wires you're gonna have to deal with if you need to go up into this front cavity, okay? Also, there's tape in the form of a decal here to help get this V-shaped decal into position. I'm gonna take and run my fingers along these joints to make them look a little bit nicer, okay? So far, so good. Fit and finish is maybe not quite up to par with some of the more expensive brands that we've got, but this is gonna be a little bit more economical. And so it's kind of like you get what you pay for, but what we don't like is when you think you're gonna get something that you thought you paid for and then you don't get it, okay? Now that's not to say that there aren't some expensive brands that we work with that leave you high and dry. That's part of the reason why we do these videos, guys. So this goes under here. This is weird. So this gets set on here, then this drops down. As you drop it, you wanna pull this forward, the latch, drop it in, and then it just goes right in. It's not a bad fit, it's a cool fit. That's neat. I guess honestly, I would have rather seen just have the foam attached. It would have been probably easier. But it is what it is. Now, I gotta say also, this thing has 3K world speed record, 1C, 1D, 416.02 miles per hour, Wendover, Utah. So this must be a race livery.
Yeah.
Okay. See what I'm talking about on the fit and finish, guys? That is what we're used to seeing on HobbyKing's lineup. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all gonna look like this, but that's what I remember seeing, okay? Features, good price, Trade-off is fit and finish sometimes. In the air, this will pass the 5-foot test, no doubt. Is this what we're used to seeing? No. To be honest, no. So, does that mean it's gonna be a big problem? I don't know, it feels light. Light except for the motor, which is heavy, and that's good. The motor is what you don't want to be light, okay? So, piece count, low. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did I count?
Yep.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8.
And then bags.
Yeah, and there's a few things in here, but I mean, this is pretty manageable.
So this build may not be too bad, and I gotta say, this has retracts, flaps, okay? LEDs, which is nice. For whatever reason, they've been left out of the last few very expensive planes we've done. And fit and finish has been impeccable on them, with the exception of the fact that there aren't LEDs. The other thing too I'm kind of weirded out by is, how does this work? Oh, it's a Y cable, okay? So a Y cable goes between the two wings. That is very interesting. Look, see, once the wings are installed, these go in, and it goes from the aileron to the flap and to the gear. Now, the challenge you might face is if you decide you want to do like a flap-around configuration on this type of breakout. It would be a little bit tricky, probably not that big a deal. You would just take the aileron lead and you would follow back to this thing, okay? And you would leave one of them attached and you would cut the other one here, boop, and then just splice those into, you'd probably cut it here. You'd pull this back, splice those onto another termination point, and then you could separate out your ailerons. Super easy to do, manageable, and within the scope of the build, okay? So for those of you that insist on modifying everything you get, then you can do it easy. Now, I'm not gonna do that. We're just gonna set up ailerons, we're gonna set up flaps, and we're gonna set up the retracts as expected. But then let's look at the rest of these screws and stuff together. Looks like this is probably for the tail section, probably for the wing, and then of course for the prop. Let's look at this close. You have a screw hole here, nut, looks like a washer, and then of course this is a prop adapter. It's gonna mount to the motor. Should be pretty straightforward stuff. And we have some assembly here that's gonna go with this. Now, when you're metal on metal, you can use a Loctite product if you want. If you're reluctant to use the Loctite because you're afraid it's gonna damage the plastic, make sure if the Loctite is gonna touch plastic, there's a good chance it's gonna break down the plastic. So I don't suggest it.
I saw that the other day. Somebody posted a picture of their landing gear and a servo, and it cracked it. It just cracked.
Yeah.
From Loctite.
All the time.
I've never actually seen it because you don't do it.
I did do it, and I broke them. That's part of the reason. I'm surprised you didn't trust me. So anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just open this now. Oh, these are prop spacers. Okay, so that'll be for spacing the prop out. And then we have this one push rod. I'm not sure exactly what that one's for. Maybe it's a steerable nose gear or tail wheel or something like that. Okay. We'll get to that eventually. Okay, so this goes into the wing, so you do have to glue that on. Oh, no, it's magnetic. Oh. Wow, that is super cool. It's the first thing to break off on a plane. Let's see if it works. Ha!
Nice.
That is so nice.
That's super
like I said, first thing to break off. Now it's just a magnet.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be lost, almost certainly. Okay, then what are these? These are exhaust tubes. Yes, they are foam. So I don't know where they go.
I know, I was looking at the box.
I don't see it there. I'm sure it goes on the bottom here, right?
I don't know.
Where the heck does it go? Maybe it goes under the wing. Kind of weird. Huh.
Is there a better picture on the...
Maybe there is. Maybe they didn't install them on theirs.
See, this thing is the same picture that's on the box.
Well, we'll find out shortly where those go. It looks like pretty obviously this is where this is going to glue, but we will find that shortly. And then the steerable tail wheel assembly comes out of the package like that. I like that they've separated out the individual components. Love that they're squishy tires. Very nice to see that for manufacturers. Looks like a modified nut assembly up here that allows you to capture your grub screws so you can make your fixes, and then this sets into what is a textured nut sort of thing. That's nice. And then spring loaded too, so it'll have a little bit of movement to it. That's gonna help protect your plastic on rough landings, but make no mistake, rough landings equal broken stuff. That's the way it works on airplanes. And these go between the wings. Looks like details are gonna help make it obvious which one's which. So that's pretty sweet. Should be a pretty easy build, guys. I mean, to be honest with you, there's not that many pieces. Even with all the pieces out, we're talking about what, like 12, 13 pieces?
I mean, this is not bad for hardware, and it's all glued together. Or, I mean, not glued together, it's all screwed together.
All screwed together?
Yeah.
What type of screws do we need, camera crew?
Oh, we need a Phillips, pretty small size Phillips for these wing screws. And yeah, these tail screws are Phillips also.
Okay, so Phillips.
These motor mount screws are hex, probably a 2mm.
Okay, so do we need a plane stand?
Well, probably.
Okay, we have a plane stand.
Are we just gonna not download the manual and just wing it? Pun intended.
I don't need no stinking manual.
Since you don't read the manual anyway.
I'm not gonna read it anyway.
What am I gonna do in my spare time?
Look, I'm gonna cram this in the hole. That's for sure, right there. Boom.
That is so weird.
It is weird. And then I'm gonna cram this in the hole.
Are you gonna start with the wings?
Listen, I'm just cramming it in the hole. Okay?
Get it all out of the way right off the bat.
But then these two wires, I just wanna make sure this isn't a problem because they taped them in that spot. I'm just pushing them together. I wanna make sure that that's pushed down so that it goes into this cavity here. Because a lot of times they tape them, that just seems like such an afterthought, very strange, because this is a really well thought out wing. And to have that there, it's not really a problem. It's just sort of weird. Now give me the wire thing. So then the wire thing can plug in here. And it looks like one goes here and the other goes there. So I'm gonna just do the one that's easier first. They're keyed, so you're gonna get it right. I have to twist mine, okay? And if I get it wrong, guess what? Well, no, there is resistors involved. So I don't know if those are current limiting resistors just for the LEDs, but you can see there's resistors there, pointed to resistors. The SMD, surface mount device.
Those things?
Those are resistors, yep. Okay, so then we've got the wires that come off the wings. Now let's go ahead and grab those two plasticky things there, camera crew.
Oh.
So sometimes on Brian Phillips RC, when we build stuff, we take longer than you might take because we take the time to talk about the details that you may or may not already be aware of, okay? So please give us a little bit of grace. When we do that, we're doing it for the new pilot and not necessarily for you. If you're an experienced pilot, you probably don't need to even watch an Unbox build radio setup, and that's fine. And if you're not into that, we appreciate that this is not gonna be for everybody in the hobby, but when you're brand new to the hobby and you need help, you're in the right place. Brian Phillips RC is gonna take you step by step all the way through. Don't forget to smash the like button. When you're subscribing, click the bell for notifications, and then you'll be notified of new content. And we have a lot of it, literally thousands of videos right now you can watch without any delay, okay? So that wing assembly is built. That was super easy. Now what we need to do is we have to decide how we're gonna do this. I think I'm gonna take the canopy off because it's kind of a weird release.
Okay.
Okay, so forward and out. Okay, I'm gonna lay this back here. Now, just so you guys know, if it weren't already obvious, when we do these planes on Brian Phillips RC, it's our first time seeing them. It's our first time, like, we don't even know what's in the box most of the time, okay? Yeah. And we just do it, okay? There are nutserts on the other side, it looks like, so we're just gonna lay the wing in. But we're gonna lay the wing in when we're ready to lay it in. But we're gonna do the tail section first, okay? Because then the wing isn't in the way as we work. I just don't like that flopping around in the meantime. And yeah, show them the nutserts, point and touch them.
Oh, here.
Yep, those are the nutserts that are gonna receive the wing, okay? So in this case, by the way, if you don't have a plane stand like this, you can use your wife's blankets, but just remember when you cut a hole in it, just keep it forever.
Yeah, so that every night when she sits on the couch,
it. Yes.
she'll remember.
She'll remember your failure.
The P-51 that cut a hole in her blanket.
Yeah, which, okay, so you'll notice that this is eventually gonna go here, but that means that we need a ball link at some point, right? Do we have a ball link? No? No.
No.
Okay, where are the ball links? I see, oh no, that's not a ball link. You pass a bolt through. You pass a bolt through. This ball is part of the assembly.
Oh, okay.
So different style. Sorry, my bad there, folks. Okay, so you'll see this. This just fits in here, like this. And then there's a pass through here and here, okay? So the assembly for the vertical stabilizer and rudder is gonna go right over the top, okay?
Well, that's pretty easy.
Okay. So then this is gonna go, whoa, hold on. I gotta figure this out. Okay. Oh, that goes to the tail wheel. This goes to the push rod, okay? So this just drops in here like this, okay? Just like that, okay? Just goes down, and then there's gonna be a pin that goes through. That's gonna be for the tail wheel, for the tail dragger. Okay, so I'm pressing down. I'm being careful not to compress this foam here. And I'm gonna hold, this is thick. So I'm gonna hold that and push down, okay? So now you can see I've kind of run into the ball link. I gotta lift that ball link so that I can get this down all the way. You see how there's a gap? Now there's not a gap.
Oh, yep.
I must have been caught on something over here. But yeah, so this is gonna move based on what the ball link tells it to do. And I'm just trying to decide, is that up or down? This is probably going to be on the top because that's where it feels neutral, okay? And then over here, you can show them the rudder. Now, I don't want to flip it upside down just quite yet because I don't know which screws, but let's just do process of elimination. We have to do this sometimes on Brian Phillips RC. We have 4. This is clearly going to be for the wing. We have 2. This is clearly going to be for the tail. This is clearly going to be part of the tail, and I bet you these 2 go in like that all the way through and hold in everything, okay? So I bet that's what it's going to be. So let's check that out next. Then, just to be clear, we've got this thing. I still don't know what that's for.
I don't either yet.
We will find out soon enough. And then we've got these things we'll find out. This is definitely for the prop assembly, okay? So we've got that. We're getting, process of elimination, we're getting close. Yeah, you can download the full manual here, okay? Nothing on the back, just so you guys know. It is kind of folded, I don't like that. Kind of small first world problems there. That's okay. Okay, so let's flip the plane upside down. This should have enough resistance on it to just stay and not fall out.
Okay.
Or we could just put it sideways too. But I think I'm gonna just go upside down. I don't think it's gonna fall off, okay? Now the elevator, this feels neutral here, so I'm happy with that, so long as I can get my screw and nut assembly on there, because I have to assume these ones with the nuts, let's look. These ones with the nuts have to be the ones. See these? They got nuts and washers, okay? So then these ones here, those are gonna be for the mounting this to the motor. And it looks like there's 4 of those, okay? And then there's 2 of these, so I'm not sure where they go. This is probably for the spinner. Let's see. Yeah, that's gonna be for the spinner, okay? Yep, you can see that lines up.
So these 2 probably go in the tail.
Could be.
And the long ones are going to go in here probably.
Yeah, because, except that this is gonna go in here. Yep, that's right, camera crew. So now which way does it go? That's a good question. Just figured out where this goes. This goes onto there, and then this goes into here, okay?
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna put that in, the Z-bend, we're gonna drop it in there, and then we're gonna rotate it. Boom, there it is. Pretty sweet.
Oh, cool.
This is a really easy assembly, folks. Like really, really easy. Okay, so now I don't know if that's that way or that way. Ugh.
Can you tell
Let's just see. Well, I can tell that there's a little bit of a taper on the tail, so I'm assuming it goes this way. Let's try this first and see if it works. Yeah, see, that's canted forward,
You're
okay?
poking your foam.
Yeah, I know. So I'm gonna go the other way now and see if it's canted backward. Yeah, does it reach or does it not? That reaches and it didn't reach before.
Okay.
That's the way it goes, okay? So now these screws, I'm gonna grab a Phillips screwdriver. Phillips screwdriver. Okay, this is 4 millimeters for what it's worth. And this might be kind of tricky to get down in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna load the screw on here like this. And then I'm gonna put this down. There are nut zerts inside of that, right there. So that means that you can use a machine style screw to go into it, okay? So I'm gonna just guide this down in there. This back one's the one I'm concerned about because of the nature of the steerable nose or tail wheel. I'm gonna get the back one started, then I don't worry where everything sits, okay? Getting that torqued down nicely. The next screw right here. Guys, we've got this plane like almost built and we've only done 2 screws so far. Isn't that crazy? This is gonna be like a really pretty easy build.
Yeah.
We like easy builds, folks. So we've built a lot of planes here on Brian Phillips RC. Had to apply a little bit of pressure to get that screw to push into the nutsert, but it wasn't hard to find the starting point once I got it tipped down. Now I'm gonna move this steerable out of the way and I'm gonna torque the rest of the way down on the back. I am supporting the plane here hard so that I can press very hard with my screw, okay? No problems. Then this will eventually go here. Also, we're gonna have a screw that goes into this point here. Okay, what screws do we need to use for that? Looks like we've got 4 screws here. We've got these 2 are obviously gonna go through here. These are aluminum screws, weird. Well, let's hope that worked. I should have guided it in with the screwdriver. Feels like it went.
Good.
Oh yeah, it's biting. Guys, there are models that, believe it or not, you do that and you'll spend 3 hours fixing it.
Yep.
Done. Excuse me.
Been there, done
Been there, done that. Yep. That doesn't mean they're not fun models and they don't hit a price point that others miss. There is truth to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's tight. Now, watch this. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for crushing foam. Crushing foam, nothing crushing yet. Okay, and then crushing foam. Nothing crushing yet, but I got it torqued down really nicely. Okay, now what the heck is gonna go here? Good question, me. So I think this is a perfect time to go ahead and get the hardware in here because there's a good chance I'm gonna regret having done that stuff first, but, okay, so this 4mm is a little bit, it might be too big. I'm gonna go down to 1 step down. This happens to be a 3mm. Okay, so I'm in there. So obviously I need to be able to turn this, but I'm gonna have to hold something on the backside of this.
Okay.
So you're not gonna use a nut driver, but I do have this helicopter tool from OMP Hobby. Oh yeah, buddy, 4mm. Look at that.
Thanks, Clay.
Thanks, Clay. Awesome. That's a helicopter tool, guys. But you can also use a pair of needle nose pliers. Now you'll see there's a washer on there. I don't know which side the washer is supposed to be on. Let's look at another assembly to make that decision.
Oh, okay.
Camera crew. Look. Is the washer on? The washer's on the nut side.
The washers, yep.
Okay, so the washer is going to be on the nut side. We're going to mimic what the Chinese did. Okay, so that means that when I put this on, it's going to be a real pain in the neck.
Oh, geez.
Okay?
Yeah.
So look, I'm going to drop my nuts.
Okay.
The nylon is up.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm going to take this washer. I'm going to set it down. Now, ideally, oh, we need to know what hole that goes in. Son of a biscuit lover.
Oh, we might have to actually look it up.
Son of a biscuit lover. Or do you want to just throw caution to the wind, go to the middle?
And you're assuming your servos are centered? Caution to the wind to the middle?
Yeah, I don't know where they are. Let's just see how this works.
Okay.
The middle? Oh, you got lots of length. Look at that. Show the people. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Why don't you come over here? See? Then you could do it the other way if you could pass your screw through and make it, like if you need it on the inside hole. I don't know how much deflection this is gonna produce, okay? They show the deflection in that drawing there, okay? I'm just going for the middle hole, guys. The middle hole might be wrong. It might need to go to the outside, but that's where it was the most neutral, so I'm going to the most neutral. Now I'm gonna slide the washer off on my fingertip. I'm gonna show you a trick, okay? Normally I would guide this down with a screw, but I don't think that's gonna happen because this is gonna be extremely awkward otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, we might need to use a magnet or some sort of forcep to engage that over the shaft of the bolt, okay? That's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Let's use some forceps. Now, forceps are a tool. If you don't already have them, you probably need them. We use forceps all the time when we're building models. And when I say build, I understand we're not building this like a stick-built plane, okay? We don't do that here, okay? So I've got that held on.
Okay.
I'm just gonna slide in here, put my screwdriver on the screw so that it keeps it from slipping back, slide my washer on, then I'm gonna grab the nuts, like this. Grab the nuts. I've got it in the correct orientation. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a kick at an angle. Not a lot, but just a little teeny bit. Okay. Then I'm gonna get this down here so I can hold that exactly in place. And then I'm gonna turn it a couple of times once I get it started. Yep, it's not starting. You wanna know why? Because I'm holding everything cattywampus.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my straight angle. Okay.
On your forceps.
And I'm gonna lay my screwdriver down. I'm gonna take the nuts. I'm gonna hold it. I'm not gonna clamp it, but I could clamp it. You can clamp with the forceps, which is nice, okay? You don't have to do that. It is kind of hard on your forceps because you'll bend your forceps on nuts like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna start this. Once I get it started, once we're into the nylon, technically we could stop, okay? But you see what I'm doing here is I'm trying not to like dent this foam. This foam is very soft, okay? So the idea is once we get down to where it's torqued tight, then I'm gonna back it off like a quarter turn. Then I'm gonna undo that, and now that should work, okay? I have no clue if that's centered. I don't care, it doesn't really matter. We'll have to go back and readdress it later. Okay? Would you grab my huge sack?
Yes.
Thanks. All right, so then the next one, we gotta do the same exact thing. We have to transfer this lateral movement from this servo into this assembly here. So we wanna do the same thing with the washer on the nut side. There isn't any ambiguity here because there's only one hole position, okay? So I'm gonna take this nut, I'm gonna take it off right now. I'm gonna lay it down gently right there so it's pointed upright. I'm gonna turn my screw so I can get the washer off. Now keep in mind, I highly recommend that you actually consume the washer. Use the washer, okay? I know it's gonna be tempting to just say, yeah, you don't really need the washer. You need the washer or they wouldn't have given it to you, trust me. The Chinese would hold that, okay?
They would keep those for
They would keep those for some other project, okay? If you didn't need it, they wouldn't include it, right? I don't know what you're doing. I'm hoping you got this under control.
Don't.
So the screws, every time you move, it makes it challenging on me because I'm trying not to elbow you with my right arm. Okay, so now that that's in there and I'm holding it vertically, this is gonna be awkward as awkward gets. Okay, now I'm not gonna clamp it. Maybe I'll clamp it once. Then I'm just gonna work this until I can get that lined up. It's just don't wanna line up worth a darn. Kind of an awkward thing to do. There we go. Remember, awkward is just the name of the game when you do some of these weird builds, okay? I'm gonna lay that down and I'm gonna try to force this through. I'll just use my fingers. Everything wants to move out of the way. I do not want to try to get that started again. Okay. Oh, now it's through. Camera crew, I cannot worry about where you are. You're gonna have to move over here and stay out of the way over there. So folks, if you didn't know this already, the camera crew is my wife of many years, many years, right? We're old.
Long time.
Sorry guys, try not to put my elbow right in the camera, but it's an awkward thing. Now that I've got that started, I'm gonna walk this up just a couple of turns by physically turning the screw. Yes, got it, there we go. Now, I'm gonna slide the washer off and I'm gonna drop it down. I'm just gonna, nope, don't move. Thank you. Stay where you are. Okay, so that's down. Now, I'm gonna take my bent tips, I'm gonna grab the nut, I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna hold it, and then I'm gonna turn it. Now my thumb is pushing on the vertical stabilizer, so I'm having to take really small bites with my screwdriver, but I'm using the forceps that have worked really good. Clay, I take back my thanks. We didn't use your tool. Sorry. That's just a joke. Tight, backed off 1/4. Clay's with Buddy, okay? If I was using your tool, that's the way it would look, but I didn't. I'm gonna put that back in my tool holder. By the way, guys, if you see this tool holder and you get jealous, all the things you see on Brian Phillips RC, you pretty much buy any of it, okay? Well, most of it. This is one of these things that's just for me. This is mine. I made this out of a beautiful piece of foam. Don't get jealous.
You have to buy your own e-bike and not throw away the garbage.
That's from an e-bike.
Yes.
I forgot that. Okay, so we have some screws here, guys. Let's talk about stuff. Obviously, eventually we're gonna have to hook this up, okay? So we could hook it up whenever. Why don't we just snap it on right now? Is there a top, is there a bottom? I have no clue, I don't really care. I'm just gonna snap it on there and be done with it. I'm gonna use 4 steps, but you could also use a snap ring tool, or not a snap ring tool, a
ball length
tool. Okay, so this is going to be output by a factor of whatever this is plus or minus based on the length and the length, okay? Make sense?
Yep.
Now, we gotta have something that goes in there. There could be a pin, there could be a screw, there could be something, but we've got all these screws here, okay? There's 4 of them, right? I'm just gonna throw a caution in the wind and see if that goes through. If it goes through, that's the screw. By the way, process of elimination has worked well for us so far because now we're down to the obvious hardware that obviously goes with the motor right here. We're down to the obvious wing hardware that goes to the wing, obviously, and then this stuff, which is decorative, I don't even know what it is. And then this, which must be extras and screws.
But if there's if those 4 screws are in there with those prop adapters, they don't go with that, right?
No, because I've already got the screw here that goes to hold the spinner on.
No, that actually holds the motor mount on.
No.
Okay.
These are for the motor mount.
Okay.
100% certain.
Okay.
Those are machine going into machine.
Okay.
These are screws that go into plastic or wood. Okay, so like a wood screw, camera crew, has a tip like this, okay? See that sharp tip? Mm-hmm. We're gonna stick it in the hole. In the hole. Okay? And then that's gonna keep everything lined up. Beautiful.
Okay.
Now, I wanna show you something here. Right there, that's gonna cut the foam and I don't care. Okay? Now, if you were worried, you could take an X-Acto knife and cut that box out just a hair. In fact, let's do that. It's a HobbyKing model.
Since you're not worried about it.
Why would we not take and cut it out? So, oh, by the way, if you haven't already connected the dots, when we do reviews for these model companies, like in this case, HobbyKing, we don't pull any punches. We just show it the way it is. And if there's something weird like that, I'm sure they're not like, oh, wow, well, the average RC enthusiast is going to know they can take and cut that out without compromising the integrity of the airplane, okay? It's not a big deal. We're not trying to beat anybody up. But at the same time, we don't just give them a pass on it either. Like, that should have been engineered out. We also didn't look at the instructions.
Not even a little bit.
They may have showed you how to deal with that with an X-Acto knife. Just watch Brian Phillips RC. You don't need no stinking instructions. We will gladly ignore them with you. Okay, prop, spinner. Now, I'm gonna stop for a second. This is a safety issue, okay? How do people get hurt in the hobby?
Props, lipos.
Thank you.
Don't cut yourself.
Don't cut yourself. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do this step until it's all done. We know what we're doing. We've built hundreds of planes. I've been cut once, and it was on an Aero Commander, an Ultra Micro, and I had 2 receivers. It was ridiculous. I was trying to sync up throttles, and it was dumb. Made a mistake. It's just a super, super dinky little cut. I've had people send me pictures of cut arms going to the hospital down to the bone. I don't want to see that crap.
Don't do that.
Don't cut yourself. Be careful, guys. Our hobby has enough of an uphill battle with idiots in charge right now, and we don't need to make it any harder by having people get injured. People do get injured. It's very unusual, but they do get cut on their hands and arms and stuff like that. Don't be that guy. Let somebody else be that guy, okay? If you're watching Brian Phillips RC, we're with you. We understand that there's always gonna be a certain amount of risk, and you guys get to set the stage by managing the risk yourself. This is not the nanny state. You guys can do whatever you want, okay? Mm-hmm. But we do suggest, in this case, that you take your time. If you don't know what you're doing at this step, it would be a good time to maybe skip this, come back to it after you're done with the build, when you've gotten to a point where you're comfortable and you feel that you're gonna have control over the ESC and what direction the prop is spinning and all those good things, okay? Now, the direction the prop spins should be set by the factory, but there are times when you gotta switch 2 of 3 lines to switch the direction. You could also get programming tools for the electronic speed control, and then you can program it. You can also go in by holding throttle all the way up with throttle cut off, which sounds crazy, power the system. It will go into a programming mode, and then you use your throttle to make decisions. Again, good time to take the prop off. Now, you can build this leaving the prop off until you're ready. And so you've only got 1 or 2 steps. It'd be just torquing down the nut, okay? So in my case, I got some Loctite. I am gonna go ahead and do Loctite on my screws, okay? And the Loctite, of course, is not real good for your body. You don't want to use Loctite on that one, just on the ones that are going to be metal on metal, okay? So I'm going to grab a screwdriver, 4 millimeters. Let's see if that's good. Oh, these are hex. Nice. I'm very glad to see that. Probably 2 millimeters. Very nice, 2 millimeters. Yep, I would have liked to see hex on everything on this plane, but we still don't get that from some of the even more expensive manufacturers. Okay, so just a little bit of Loctite. Remember, it's the solvent that breaks down the plastic, so if you really insist on using Loctite on your screws, and you are gonna be up against plastic, let this dry, and then the solvent will no longer be a factor, okay? So you can lay that on there, come back to it tomorrow, and you'll be less likely to have the plastic break down as a result. I still don't do that. I don't think it's necessary. It's just a waste of time and effort, okay? On this, I am gonna go ahead and do Loctite, okay? The instructions might not even call for it. I don't care. I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
What do the instructions call for?
Don't
Who knows? It's a mystery. Why is it a mystery? Because I'm too lazy. Okay, so we'll slide that down. We're gonna torque this in. Nope, we're just gonna put it on far enough that it holds it in position. Then we're gonna get the second one. We're gonna do the same, and so on and so forth until it's built. By the way, quick little side note. When I was breaking my teeth in Model RC airplanes, aviation 10 years ago or so, I used to really enjoy watching Stuart with HobbyKing on their YouTube channel. It was super cool. And we used to watch Pilot Ryan. And so of course we're buddies with Ryan, and now we've met Stuart and working with HobbyKing. It's just really cool to come full circle. And of course we work with Horizon FMS and Buddy RC and Banggood and some different Amazon affiliates and all sorts of different things, because this hobby is much bigger than just one person or one brand. That's part of the reason why you're gonna come to a place like Brand Phillips RC. I'm gonna hold this with my fingers. I'm gonna get them torqued down just as tight as I can do it with holding this with my fingers, and then I'm gonna show you another trick. But at the end of the day, we're here to support you, the audience, and not necessarily just one particular brand or another particular brand. We do want for success for these different brands that we work with, because of course they're working with us, they're sending us planes so we can review them. And obviously when you buy stuff, we make commissions on them. But we wanna make sure that there is no mistake. We want you to buy what's right for you and what's gonna work for you when it's ready to work for you, and how and within the budget that works for you, and not what they've got for sale today, okay? So I'm gonna open this crescent wrench. This is actually not a crescent wrench because it is Master Force. That's a brand. It's called a sizable wrench, okay? So now I've just kind of closed it so that I can use this to torque these even further. Now, do you need to torque them this much? Probably not. I'm gonna do it anyway. Why? Because that just makes me feel comfortable. And you know what's nice about this hobby? There are certain things that you can do that might be a little bit above and beyond what the manufacturer calls for, and that's fine. But if you go above and beyond or outside of the scope of what the manufacturer recommends, then you have to take a little bit of responsibility for the changes you might have made. Here on Brand Phillips RC, we're quick to own when we make a mistake. We've made many of them over the years, but generically speaking, putting together these models has gotten so dang easy that my wife could do it. Okay?
Well, I could.
On?
That's not right.
Huh?
You have to put the spinner backer on.
You're right.
Like I said, I could do it.
See? How do we know? Texture, texture. Okay? That is a big gap.
It is.
Big gap. That does not look the way the picture looks.
This looks kind of gappy to me though.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wish this wasn't bent. That is, ugh, ugh.
Tell us how you really feel.
Ugh.
You're gonna break it.
No, I'm not. Oh, son of a biscuit. I just rubbed that onto your counter.
You did.
It's all right. This is Chinese paint. It's totally not leaded.
It was super safe.
Here.
Not blue food coloring.
That's not blue food coloring.
No, it's not.
Okay, look, I'm gonna straighten this if it's the last thing I do.
Maybe when you
No, it won't.
see, even the cat agrees with me.
You see the cat? The cat is pissed off that I have to bend this.
Let's go outside.
HobbyKing, what are you doing? Straighten yourselves out. I don't want to see this kind of garbage again. Okay? Look at that. That piece right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Irritating. Ooh, here's another way we could do it. I'm gonna go on it like this, and I'm gonna torque it. Oh yeah, that's gonna work.
Oh,
Torque it.
totally gonna break it.
No, I'm not. This thing is strong. It's resilient. It's robust. I think what would work better is heat. I think it's just coming back to that position.
I think you're gonna.
Stick it in the hole. Stick it in the hole. Oh, by the way, only because they're still working, and we're gonna take a pause here on our actual build. We're gonna show you a small build going out here. What? They're actually working on it. It's so cool, guys. This is an Easter egg for those of you that follow Brian Phillips RC. Yes,
Or
that's
Brian's
my coat. It's drying out. So, this is the building pad, guys. It's happening. The pond is done. It's fully legal. Signed off by the federal government. The idiots had to kick off my property. It was awesome. Now we're getting the pad ready for the next stage, which is gonna be the damn gift shop. Yep, that's a big pad.
Yes, it is.
200 by 150, and then they're tapering it into the hills, and you're gonna have the full-scale aircraft are gonna pull out of the hangar that way. I mean, sorry, the agricultural building for my combines.
Yes, the combines
There.
will pull out that way.
That's gonna be super cool, and we're gonna show you more and more and more of this amazing experience building the aerodrome here on Brian Phillips RC. In fact, I got another plane lined up to land here, and he's coming to investigate next week.
Yes.
So if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we're building an aerodrome. The pond went in. The damn gift shop is gonna be where that skid steer is right now. He's gonna be driving in the FBO right now, the field base operation.
Isn't he in the garage? He's gonna be in the
No,
FBO?
well, he might be in the garage. He's probably in the FBO right now.
Okay.
So 60 by 104 right now is what we are currently working on. Yes,
Oh,
there is
we're
a
in
camera.
front of the time lapse.
Yes, the time lapse. We interrupted the time lapse. Guys, we're gonna have video footage for you behind the scenes, Easter egg for Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna keep building this Yak now. Sorry to all the manufacturers.
Did the cat come out with you?
I don't know. I don't care.
She's scared of the noise.
So yeah, bulldozers, just part of Brian Phillips RC.
Yeah, apparently.
Our neighbors moved in. They're like, oh, quiet.
Moved to the country.
Retire.
Yeah.
Moved next to the next.
You missed your chance,
wrong,
cat.
Wrong person.
Yeah.
Hey,
Wait, I gotta go.
don't engage the
over
cat
here.
anymore because we're filming a video here. See this? Look, I don't know what that is. I know it's probably supposed to support the prop, but as you can see, I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna line up. And we have to hit this hole with the prop, okay? So I'm just gonna dry fit this real quick, but you can see kind of what's going on.
It's gonna
I'm
be
having a heck of a time getting that to line up. That does not feel like that's gonna line up here. Look at that. Not even close. Look at that. That's not gonna line up. It's not gonna fit. What the heck? Okay, so then in that case, that complicates matters even worse with this spinner. This spinner just does not seem to work well. I have to decide here pretty quick what I'm gonna do about it too. I think what I'm probably gonna have to do about it is I'm probably gonna have to trim it. But I don't wanna trim it until I know for sure what's going on, okay? So you see what I'm talking about? This prop has got a wider root than the opening will tolerate. No, it's really dang close. Maybe
Really
it
close.
will. Maybe it will. But see, we're not centered. See, that's
Right.
like center. Okay, let's see if we can get it to go. So once that's on there, you got to remember, I've got to put this stuff on, but I got to make sure this is in the right position. Okay, so wherever this lines up is where we need to put it. Okay, because those 4 screws set the stage for the position, right?
okay. That's a lot to line up.
Yeah, it is, kind of. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slide this on and just throw caution to the wind. Okay, well, you can see where the paint is. Oh, well, there. That's where it's going to line up, right there. Because that's the gap, okay? So then once we get that on there, we can go ahead and line this on and then go ahead and put this on. Now, we don't need the screw like I thought to hold the spinner on because this is a different style of spinner. Some of them have a hole here and they will have like a long standoff and that allows you to mount it to this. This would be the motor mount, okay? In our case, we don't need this screw, okay? But we do have a screw that goes in there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually just put that in and torque it down. My only fear is, you remember we didn't know which one to put in the back on that vertical support, but I know I needed a wood screw.
Right.
Because, or like a plastic screw.
Because then there's only 3 of those left in that other bag.
Well, if we find out we're wrong, then we'll know where it is, okay? We'll just have to undo this. Now, you see what's happening? I want you to show the people what's happening. Look at the back. The motor's spinning. Okay? How the heck are we gonna brace that? That is gonna be awkward as all get out. So a lot of times what I do is I take a screwdriver that's a flat screwdriver, like this. And I will take this and I will put it in the stator of the motor, okay? And then I will get in here and I will torque this down a little bit. I have to use my wrist to hold that as I torque. Once you get it torqued down a little bit, you can get in here again. Long screwdriver, wrist, torque. That's pretty tight, okay? Not perfect, but it's tight, okay? Okay, we'll see how this goes, and then we'll see if we got it good enough to actually line up. And I'm guessing we're probably about as good as we're gonna be. So if I have to take a little bit off of the material, then I'll take a little bit off of the material. It looks nice on this side. So, you know what those 4 screws are? We just remembered what they are.
Yeah.
Those 4 wood screws go here. They go here.
So you're gonna need that one for the tail.
I guess.
Because that's it.
That's it.
Yep.
So this one goes on the tail. We're gonna take it out. Guys, sometimes you learn that you're wrong. See? I must have been wrong. But that actually worked pretty dang good. So I'm surprised because I don't see any sort of a nut zert to receive a machine screw. But it must be good enough.
Just as a placeholder.
Yeah, it's probably fine. I'm not like super thrilled with the way that fits, by the way. I'm gonna go with a bigger screwdriver because I can get away with a bigger screwdriver here. Yeah, it seemed to work pretty good actually. The idea is you don't want slop, but you don't want this tight either. So once you get it tight so it like stops it from moving, now you can back it off like a quarter turn. And that'll give you a freedom of movement. That actually worked fine, guys. My apologies for being wrong. I'm wrong once in a while on this channel, and that was definitely one of them. So there's 3 screws to go with this. Okay. Those are the 4 screws that hold the spinner on. We hadn't gotten to it yet, so I'll take it. So far, I'm pretty happy with the way this is going. There are adapters for the prop shaft here that would go around the prop shaft and help widen up the prop shaft to fit that prop. But like, honestly, I didn't feel like there was a lot of slop on it. Did you? No,
but maybe if you have a replacement prop, you would need
but why
something different. But
it's unusual that they would include this if they weren't thinking you would need it. So maybe that'll end up being something else. We'll find out in a minute here. Okay, folks, look. So I ripped that through the bag. They've got the plastic on it. So that might actually make this screw in poorly. So I'm gonna back that off. That was so weird. It's like I was trying to stop from making him like a little screw baby. That'd be awkward. All right, guys, here on Brian Phillips RC. If you want to help support us, look no further than the links in the video description below. We want you guys to buy planes that are right for you, both for your skill and budget level. And so if this plane looks like it's going to be one of those matches for you, then we'll have links and you can buy the plane and you can enjoy it for yourself. I did not get proper alignment on this screw. So I'll come back to that one. It might fall out. If it does, just keep an eye on it for me.
Yep.
Okay, I'm using, again, my 4mm tip here, which translates, I'm guessing, to about, that'd be about Phillips number 1 point, probably 0.75 or something.
Smaller than a 2?
It's smaller than a 2, yeah. It'd be like a 1.5 or a 1. Okay, that didn't go either. So that's not a good sign.
The first time you kind of dry fit it, I felt like you got it snapped on at least on 1/2 better.
Yeah, but see, I don't know if we're actually in. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the magnetic portion of this screwdriver. I'm gonna try to get that first screw out because I think I'm on the side of the standoff, okay? Because I gotta go into the center.
Okay.
So let's see if I can walk this on here. Man, this spinner, guys, you got to do something different on the spinner, HobbyKing. So far, the fit and finish has been actually really good until I got to this spinner. I'm not super impressed with the spinner. And I can't tell if I'm biting or not.
It doesn't look like
it
it's
doesn't
closing
feel like
that gap at all.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be a smart feller and not a fart smeller. You know how I'm gonna do that? I'm gonna pull this off and see if this actually goes in.
Okay.
Does it go in? Yes, it does. That will bite. That will bite.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's right.
Yeah, so if that's correct, then we just need to make sure that our alignment is correct. There's really only two ways it can go. It could go here or it could go here. So I'm gonna try both and just make sure I'm not missing it. I'm almost wondering if I'm not getting penetration deep enough because it's not snapped down like you were saying. Mm-hmm. You think that's what's going on? Oh, look. Look, I don't think...
It's hitting a little bit there.
I don't think I've got my prop square enough for it to work. I gotta work this prop back just a hair.
Ooh, okay.
So that I can line up with that. I got an idea. So if I use a long screwdriver, I can put it in there and then I can work this. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get a Phillips screwdriver. I happen to have a long Phillips screwdriver in here. Number 2. And this long screwdriver is gonna allow me to reach between those two standoffs. And then with those two standoffs, then I can hold, because I don't wanna hold here and then accidentally break free the prop. So you see I can go in like this.
Yeah.
And I just need to pivot the prop just a little bit. It's not the best design. This spinner it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. I like the plane, but so far the spinner is my biggest problem with it. That'd be easy enough to fix. Okay, see, I'm gonna hold here because this is sharp, this is not. Can I pull it back? Yeah, there we go. That worked good right there. See? Oh yeah, spinning. You don't want that to spin too far, and I just spun it too far. Okay. So now I have to try to bring it back. I wonder if I could, I'm just gonna try bracing it here, see if I can. Yep, I can. Good enough. Now, let's see if we can get this on now. Yeah, that's closer. Oh yeah, don't you know. Stick it in. There it is. Okay. Gosh, this is awkward, folks. We built a lot of airplanes over the years, and this spinner has got to be one of the poorer fitting spinners that we've worked with.
It's just a lot of stuff to have to get all lined up at once.
Yeah, and especially with a bent spinner, no less. Okay, so I need to get a bigger screwdriver. This screwdriver, this 4mm, just, it's not purchasing. Number 5 is too big. So number 4 is the best we can do. That is where and why we would use a hex drive, but you know, they didn't ask my opinion, so we're gonna use what they sent. Okay, so I'm back to 4mm. Now, just like with the wheels on your car, I want to try to get these started before I get into torquing them all down. But in this case, I need to try to get this thing to sit into that little lip, okay?
Oh, there it's gone.
See, now it's in on this side, so I'm gonna try to screw these screws in to pull it in, okay? Then once it's pulled in, yep, there it's pulled in. Now I can do a couple on this side, get them started. I mean, if it comes together at the end, it comes together at the end. You quickly forget about the pain and suffering of building planes after they're in the air and they're just absolutely gorgeous looking. Mm-hmm. And that's been my experience, at least. I can't necessarily say that for everybody. See how it's just closing the seam up, okay? So now I'm gonna go to the next one. I'm not gonna totally torque them down. I have to go around and do all 4 of them. Okay. So guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC and you just saw that build project going on back there and you said, what the heck does that have to do with the Yak? Very little to nothing. But it has to do with our aerodrome. An aerodrome, of course, is like basically an airport. And that's what we're doing here. We're building like a little airport. And when I say a little, I mean we have 24 acres here we're working with. And so it is pretty dang small. But it's big enough to land an airplane because we've already done it. Ooh, show the people. I'm hitting that plastic right there. You see that plastic?
Oh, yes, I can.
I'm not sure how that's gonna work. I wonder if I can get this one to collapse and then thus pull it over. Man, this is a real pain in the neck.
I was just thinking if there are people that take their props off a lot more frequently, don't pull your plane off the corner.
Just relax. You realize I'm putting like a tremendous amount of torque on this. I can't not spin it a little bit. Okay, so this one's not wanting to collapse on me here. It's not wanting to collapse into the crack. So what are we gonna do to collapse it? We're gonna push until it pops. And then we got, there it is, there it is. Yes, got it. Now it's on, okay? So I'm gonna hold this. You see how I'm getting my fingers in there, behind there? Are you showing them? Because I can't see what you're showing. Go up higher. Once I get this torqued, then I can go to the next one. Yeah, you see it's collapsed all the way around now. That's what we want. Camera crew's concerned I'm gonna knock this off the counter because my plane stand's moving away from me, but if you're a normal human, and the older you get, the harder this sort of thing is on your back, I'm wanting to pull it in close to my body. Oop, come on, get lined up. There we go. There we go. Don't strip the screw. You will be burned. Burned if you strip it. Yep, can't turn anymore because it's wanting to strip. And guys, I'm pushing very hard to get purchase so that I can torque those. That's what you get. It's as good as it's gonna be. Looks pretty good too, okay? All right, so that was by far the worst part of this build. Like by 10 times. Everything else has gone pretty dang smooth if you ask me. All right, so the next thing we have to figure out is I really hope we don't have to add that later, but we've got them if we need them, so we'll just lay that out of the way. The Loctite I use is just blue Loctite. I would not recommend using a red Loctite because of course red is, not supposed to be removable, which of course we all know they're removable, but you're not exactly gonna heat up your prop adapter on your airplane to get stuff like that apart, generally speaking. All right, and then we have these two foam pieces. I'm still not 100% sure where they're gonna go, but I'm assuming there will be something more obvious as we finish the build. So we'll come back to that. This is gonna be our next assembly point, which is gonna be 4 screws that are gonna hold the wing on. Now, we've got this wire already landed, and I'm assuming it's gonna pop through in a spot where we can see an obvious passage, but I don't know that for a fact. That would not be the first time I got something like that wrong. Camera crew, can you, back hole center. Lined, is it lined?
Yes, looks like it.
So it should be relatively easy. We're just gonna drop this in and center it, okay? So into the plastic piece reaches through the foam, and then the plastic piece will reach through the foam and drop down. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Then these screws drop in, follow up. These are Phillips screws, okay? Now, some of you that take this wing on and off to transport are gonna be happy that you've got those singular quick disconnect on the wings. But the truth is, like, the way that it drops it, what the heck is going on there? That isn't fitting. There it goes. That was not, there was like a piece of plastic in there that wouldn't let it drop, okay? So now, my suggestion is don't use impacts to put these together. If you use an impact, you're likely to rip out the nut zert on the other side. It does make things a lot faster. And so for that reason, a lot of you are gonna be tempted to do it. I'm gonna actually get these all started, and I'm gonna get 2 of them close, and then I'm gonna flip the plane over and make sure that our cable's not trapped to where it's gonna be damaged. Did it go through? I couldn't see.
It went through, yes.
Is it perfect?
Well, I don't know if you're gonna be happy with where it came out. There's only 2 choices, but I can see all 3 of the connectors came through.
Did it line up with the hole?
I don't know, I can't see the hole from this side.
Because if it lined up with the hole, then I'm gonna be happy. If it didn't line up with the hole, then I'm gonna be concerned. Okay, so now that we've got those all started, I've got 2 of them sort of tight. We can flip this over. This is when I start looking up to see if I'm gonna hit something with the plane. It's a pretty big plane. It's nice looking, beautiful plane. Okay, so camera crew, show the people at home. This is the answer to the question I was just asking my camera crew. Did it fit through the hole? It fit through perfectly, folks. So that means if you want, you could unplug that while it's in here, okay? Now, I'm not saying that's gonna work for everybody and it may not be necessary for everybody to do that, but I am gonna say this, I am super happy about the way that all these wires are coming through, and we got tons of slack, and we would have no problem at all putting our receiver in a bunch of different places. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these wires for now, and I'm just gonna take this tape that came inside of the plane, I'm just gonna tape them together like that. And then that keeps them from being in the way and whacking into the foam. Because believe me, you will damage your foam if you whack into them with these cables. So I'm gonna tuck them into this cavity and hope that it holds, okay? You could also tape it down, but I don't wanna take the finish off, okay? It's now coming back around. The other thing too I was checking on is where those wires, or excuse me, where the screws were coming out, so as to verify that we weren't going to be cutting into a cable, okay? Because these 4 screws are shooting through the nut zerts that we showed you earlier on the battery tray. Now also keep in mind, a lot of times when you have a battery tray and it's weak, it will crack and break because it's a plywood. And I've had it happen. Look at the puckering. The puckering, it means you're getting really close to where you want to be. Okay, look at the puckering. Not started, but it's very, very superficial. Now it's getting deeper and deeper as we penetrate through with this, okay? Same thing here. I'm gonna go get this one to where it starts puckering. I'm gonna stop and do the other side to where it, ooh, that one is just really tight. Ooh, man, there it goes, breaking through. I wonder if it's almost like a nylon, like a nylock. That could be what's going on. Okay, so you can see the pucker now in the foam. Point at the pucker with your finger now. You see that pucker, guys? That's what we're looking for. If you don't get a pucker, you probably need to tighten a little bit more, okay? See the pucker? I can feel it because my fingers are white. When I tighten it, you see I'm like torquing this down tight, okay? Don't be afraid to torque this down tight. Remember, you could have a super strong wing, and if it's not attached to the fuse, you're gonna have a wing rip off. I wanna point out one other detail I just noticed about this plane. They jigged and painted everything so you don't see the wires. That's cool. I like that. I remember that about a couple Avios models that we had from years ago. And I do like that. That's really good. Because like from the bottom, it looks beautiful. And I gotta say, this plane is very pretty. The spinner went together. It sucked tight into the perfect shape. So I'm happy about that. The prop is beautiful. But you can see right here, as this spins, you don't see that weird bump. I did admittedly try to flatten it, okay? So maybe part of my efforts came through. But what a beautiful looking plane. Wow. I'm very happy with the way it looks. Now, is it gonna fly good? That is yet to be seen. Let's flip this thing over. So we do an unbox build radio setup on Brian Phillips RC, so you're probably thinking to yourself, so there's more still? Yeah, there's more. We still have to set up a radio for this, and we have to figure out where those exhaust ports go. I don't even know what they are. I think they're exhaust ports. These things. Maybe what we'll do is we'll pause real quick. We'll see if we can figure out where these go, and then we'll come right back and see if we have to glue them on. All right, so these are dummy exhaust pipes, okay? They come out the bottom of the wing. So I'm gonna put on the canopy, hold this thing forward, slide the canopy back into the fuselage, and then drop it down. Not a big fan of the way this goes together. I feel like it's gonna break something. It looks nice. It does seem to function, but it makes me nervous. Kind of hard to tell. The spring system works good. Okay, so we'll flip this back over. Oh yeah, that's where they go. Duh. Pretty obvious, I should have known. You can see where they go.
Oh, here, okay.
So I have an X-Acto knife. I have some China glue, okay? If you guys don't know what mucilage is a product that you can buy at HobbyKing. We have gotten away from it actually, and we've been using the stuff from FMS and foam to foam from Horizon. But if you're ordering this plane, maybe you could order a little mucilage. My suggestion is dollars to donuts, the bigger size is a better value, but the tube is cut open when you get it. So I would suggest getting the smaller tube. These are not open until you open them.
I don't think they sell it in that same configuration as when you used to get it. So,
well, I just had a couple that I got that were dried out, and and it made me mad. But I didn't use them right away. Full disclosure. Okay, so I don't want to make a mess. So they say to cut it, and I'm like, I don't really think you need to cut it. Okay, so you see the strings? That's how China glue should look when you're putting them in. Okay, work it a couple of times. I'm going to grab it on my finger because I don't want to make a mess on the plane. You see that? So you can lay this down, let it cook off for a minute. And this is a contact cement. So the other thing you can do is you can apply it to this side. Okay, go light. And then you can apply it to this side and just go, I went way not light. I meant to go light. So I'm actually going to cap this back off. I'm going to take this out, the dummy, and I'm going to use it to spread some of the glue onto the other one. And then I'm going to let them cook off for just a minute. Okay. Now, when we let these cook off, what I mean is, just let the glue work for a minute. Okay. That's all you got to do. I'm not even going to trim mine. Mine fit fine. I didn't need to trim them. Very happy with the fitment. And full disclosure, that is the type of thing, it'll be the first thing to break. Now look how nice and smooth that bottom is of the airplane. The only thing sticking out is the steerable tail wheel, okay? So not sure if you want those things on there. It depends on how you transport your planes. You might want to make that decision for your transportation environment, okay? So up next for us on this build is going to be our radio setup. Now radio setup, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, consists of installing a radio by mounting it, gluing it, screwing it, whatever we're doing to mount it, and also the setup on the transmitter, okay? So we're going to probably use an AR631 or an AR637T. Haven't decided yet. Let's see if this is dry enough to where it can go. Okay, so we'll just stuff this in here. Oh yeah, that's going to be good. I don't know if they're supposed to be square, if they're supposed to be at a slight angle. I'm going to go at a slight angle because that seems to be consistent with what we've seen in the past on many other airplanes. So it'll just kind of come out at a slight angle because that's what I believe it would look like. I am not familiar with the Yak, guys, full disclosure. But it's a really popular racing plane, I guess, and wartime airplane. Retracts, by the way, look to be pretty nice. We'll see how they function. I'm a little bit nervous. Seems like a singular screw that holds these gear door on. Gear door, in my past experience with HobbyKing planes, sometimes leave a little something to be desired. I love the fact that that goes on and off with a magnet. I don't love the fact that they didn't paint the bottom color the same, but that's pretty common, okay? All right, thoughts about the build. Easy build. The most difficult thing was the spinner. By a long shot.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I have to pick something to be hard, the spinner would be it. Okay, because I can live with that. And by the way, just so you guys can see the size and scale and scope here, I'm gonna go ahead and flip this around. It's a little bit awkward to hold because I'm trying not to hit those exhaust ports. But that's pretty good sized plane. 1,450 millimeters, is that what they're saying?
Yes.
Big prop, beautiful look. And we're just gonna set it down, upright now. That is gorgeous. Okay, and then things like this, you'll notice when you get it, the decals have that little rippling. You can get that out of there if you just work the decals a little bit, okay? Now also, if you use CA and Kicker, this foam, or this type of paint, in my experience, will come off really easy if you get Kicker under it, okay? It will just delaminate and come right off, so be careful with that. Also, I gotta say, in terms of just the scale looks, it is gorgeous. I love the way it looks. This canopy is beautiful. The fitment is not great, but it just looks fine. Like you don't notice the fitment issues from a distance, but like right here, we have bad fitment and bad fitment and bad fitment and bad fitment. But like, you're not gonna know any better when you're flying, okay?
Right.
Full disclosure. I'm not doing FPV, I have no interest in it. You might want to. If you do, just keep in mind this glass is not gonna be super clear, okay? It's got a lot of compound bends and turns, but the instrument cluster looks really cool. And so if you were gonna do FPV, my suggestion would be cut this whole canopy and then take it out and build a reinforcement rib so that you can take it on and off, and then you'll just take it off when you're flying. Or cut out just the clear part so that it looks like it's there, but it's not, and then you'll have better visibility if you're doing pan and tilt, okay? All right, so receivers, we'll be right back with radio setup. All right, so our normal go-to transmitter right now is the NX10. As you know, we're almost out of model memory. If you follow the channel, you're allowed 250 models. We have an external hard drive in this, an SD card, micro SD card. There's also an internal one that's like about here if you were to tear this in half. That's the onboard memory. This is the external memory, okay? But Spectrum Airware only supports up to 250 model memory. We have more than 250, I think, but I think it's like too dumb to realize that we have more. But we have noticed it started to slow down quite a bit considerably as we approach and pass that target, okay? We eventually are gonna go to an NX8. Why? Because the sliders, we never use them, and the Hall effect sensors, the gimbals, are like, we don't need them, okay? We just don't use them. Now that we have 20 channels on this, and on the NX8 you have 20 channels, and it's virtually exactly the same transmitter, we're gonna start using the NX8. So we have a new one. They did release a little bit bigger battery. Full disclosure, this is 6,000 that came. Now it's 6,600 if I remember right. So we'll link to that stuff in our transmitters. My suggestion is if you have a 10, you're in good shape. Remember, we recommended the 10 because at the time we needed the extra channels. Now that we have 20 channels with firmware upgrade, you don't have to have the NX10 Plus to have that. You can just update your firmware on your existing NX10. If you have an NX7E, you can go up to 14 channels. If you have an NX6, you can go to 14 channels. So the same is true, unless you need the rotary knob or additional switches or additional toggles, or in this case, sliders. I don't use the sliders. I've used sliders once or twice. Some of you guys like to use sliders to help with additional access of gains. I don't use that. I just use the rotary knob for master gains, and I tie them all together to that. Now, in terms of receivers, so full disclosure, we're gonna start with the NX10. We're using this until it boots us. Then we're gonna go to the NX8, okay? So if you see start with an NX8, you're like, why are you downgrading? Well, we're not really downgrading. We just don't need the features that the 10 have. And I had originally thought I'm gonna do an NX20 because we have a little bit bigger screen then. Then I was like, why? I mean, like most people are gonna use this. So we want it to have the exact same look and feel. And so we're trying to serve our audience. Our audience is gonna tend to get those things. Now, if you have an IX20, you got an IX14, you got an IX12, we're still not ready for that, okay? We're not gonna probably be using that for a while. I am using an AR637T in this plane, okay? Why? I want this plug so that I can have pack telemetry without having a smart ESC. Now, you could tear out this ESC and you could put in as little as a 630 and have pack telemetry as well. But we aren't gonna do that, and we don't typically do that on Brian Phillips RC. A 631 would probably be better. This is a big plane, it's gonna get some distance, it's gonna be away from you. I like the idea of the antenna. This has an internal antenna, it's about $5 less. Yes, you can buy these things from the links in the video description below, but we're gonna recommend the AR637T. Ironically, we just had the J3 Cub and they sent this transmitter, or this receiver combo, but it was the Plus. This is exactly the same because I've updated the firmware, except the packaging is the other way around. Okay, so like this sits like that in the package. It's the same thing, guys, just newer firmware, okay? And a different sticker because it says like Plus on there.
Yep.
Doesn't matter, just update your firmware. If you have a really old one and it's a TA, you may not have that supported feature, okay? So just keep in mind the 3 blank get you into the AS3X Plus bill. If you're at 2 anything else, then you're not AS3X Plus, you're just AS3X, okay? So the supported channels, there's 6 pluggable channels, and then there's 20 total channels in this transmission, okay? So same thing with this, same thing with this. These are just cheaper. This is more expensive. If you need the 8 channels for something else, if you're gonna do like a bomb drop feature or something weird, you can add that in and have more pluggable channels with the AR8360T, okay? If you have a crashed bind and fly, you can clear the firmware on the AR83, or if you're gonna do an AR637TA, which comes in the bind and flies, you lose the Vario function. I don't need Vario in this application, but I do want the pluggable battery lead, okay? So we're gonna go to the XT90 and we'll see our pack telemetry, okay? So full disclosure, you could also use a Lemon RX receiver. We're not using this today, but you get those from Buddy RC. We have links to that as well. And then of course there are gonna be some options on HobbyKing, but they didn't send it and we aren't gonna use it, okay? We're gonna be using Spectrum because that's what we love the best, and we've had very good luck with that. There was a time back in yesteryear where I used orange receivers before Lemon became a thing, and then I switched over solely to Lemon, and then we've been Spectrum all the way ever since. And forward programming is a large part of that because AS3X is superior. It is solid, it works really good. Now, is it the best thing since sliced bread? Probably not, but you're gonna be a big jump in price to get to the next best thing, okay? And most people are not gonna be doing that. And by the way, the next best thing is probably Synapse. There you go, from Spectrum. And it's a lot more expensive. So keep in mind, we understand a lot of times what's driving a decision to this particular model is going to be a cost component, okay? So we're gonna show what we think is probably what you're gonna want. You could totally do this with 631 and have good results, but you're gonna lose your battery, okay? The battery telemetry. Now, that being said, why do I care about battery telemetry? Because we're gonna show the possibility of 2 batteries in this model, okay? 5,000 milliamp 50C, Smart Pack, Gen 2, 1 balance lead. Yes, this will plug in to an XT90. I do not like that. That is too wiggly for me. See that? You're gonna end up putting a crease in there. We'll have to figure something out. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, lay this aside for now. You're good where you are. Then, I just wanna show you guys this. I'm not gonna plug this in because I don't wanna get cut. You see where my arm is, guys? Look, this is why you might leave the prop off. XT60, this can be plugged in backward. Don't do that thing. I did that on a Futura 80, and I was able to save the ESC and the battery by pure luck. Okay? You probably won't be so lucky. So just be careful. When you use this, make sure that your polarity is right, but you can plug this in. It will fit. Okay? I'm out of the way of the prop. See, it does fit and it does work. Okay? You heard the pop. That will be a discharge. Okay? Then we also have China Hobby Line, which is another common choice of many of the aficionados that watch Brian Phillips RC. This happens to have an XT90, okay? This will obviously work with the said XT90, okay? Now keep in mind, on this XT90, this is the better pants equipped. You can pull the pants down on these by grabbing hard and pulling back and forth, and then you can get to your solder joints, which is really nice. Not only can you put your eyeballs on whether or not the solder joint is good, but you can also solder a lead just like this, but you don't want it on the battery, you want it on the plane, okay? So unfortunately for us, we have heat shrink. Now, a little trick, you can heat this up and pull it back. You can solder and then slide it back and then let it cool. Heat it, slide it back, it's gonna wanna, sit down there. Or you can just pierce the leads like we always do. This is a 16 gauge cable. And yes, also in these XT60s, you'll notice they spin like this. That's normal, and that's not a big deal. But I just want you to be aware, I like the kind that have pants because then you can open that up and get to them. It just looks nicer. But you have to remember to slide the pants down the leads before you solder, okay? If you forgot, you can put heat shrink. Except you gotta put heat shrink on first too. Also, we have China Hobby Line in a 6,000. I'm not showing the Spectrum in a 7,000 because that is considerably larger than they suggest, which should be like 6,200 is the max that they've mentioned, okay? So we're gonna have these, and by the way, the EC3 connector, same thing as the IC3 connector that I showed you with the Smart, this will plug in, but because the connector will fit backward, be careful, use caution. When you hook it up backward, you're gonna fry something, probably the battery, probably the ESC, if not the ESC, the battery, if not the battery, the ESC, or both. And if you're lucky, you'll get it pulled apart quick enough that you don't burn your house down, okay? Don't do that thing. All right, so where do we start with radio setup? Well, first of all, you have to pick what transmitter and receiver you're going to use. Obviously, we're going to be using the NS10. We've talked about why. We're not going to be using Lemon, but you could use Lemon. Also, this Lemon receiver does come with a telemetry device that's similar to what you have here. And yes, this telemetry will pass into your Spectrum receiver. If you want to see more about how that works, we did a P38 with Mike, who was a nice guy from Kansas City that came up here, and he flew several planes, one of which we set up with this receiver, or just like it, and we had voltage telemetry that came through on the Spectrum end, which is pretty cool. And yes, this is stabilized. Yes, I believe this will also do auto leveling, but we just set up stabilization in that event, okay? This obviously is gonna have AS3X and safe, so AS3X plus and safe. So AS3X is artificial 3-axis stabilization plus, which just means it's a newer version, it's a little bit more refined, and then safe, sensor assisted flight envelope. That's gonna be your auto leveling feature, and also heading hold, but in this case, it's just gonna be used for auto leveling, okay? So much like you get on many of the bided flight planes from E-Flight, we're gonna have it on a HobbyKing product. And you're probably thinking to yourself, it's not like this is the first time it's ever been done, Brian. I understand, for you, I get it. But this guy over here, he's never done it. He doesn't understand how awesome that is. Because he's like me, when I started, you couldn't do this. It is amazing to be able to have auto leveling when you're learning to fly. This might not be a terrible plane for a beginner, but I'm not gonna say that until I've flown it. I tend to think it's a terrible plane unless it proves otherwise for beginners, okay? Because you're on Brian Phillips, so if you tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God, because we want you guys to have a good outcome. And if we give you bad information, you're gonna act on it, and then you're gonna have a bad outcome. What's the point in that, right? We want people happy in this hobby. All right, we're gonna pause, get set with the receivers, and come right back. All right, so because this plane doesn't come with any Velcro for a battery, we normally use a product called shelf liner to help hold our battery in place. So you're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, I thought this was a radio setup part of the video. Yes, it is. Why is this the radio setup? Why are you using shelf liner in the radio setup? Because this is when you have to make decisions. We do a lot of thinking out loud on this channel because we want to teach you guys how we came to the conclusion that we did, which includes shelf liner. Shelf liner is used to line shelves so that when you open your wife's counter and there's like a bunch of millions of things in here, they don't slip and slide around like that. They hold still. Well, unfortunately, she's married to me and I stole all her shelf liner.
Mine's all in planes.
Which is ironic because we have 2 rolls of this and we have not yet re-shelf lined.
No.
Okay, so you might want to do that, camera crew, off camera.
I'll get right on that.
So this stuff is gonna go between a pack like this that slides. Once you get a little weight on there, see, I'm moving the table. I can literally move the table almost. Same thing with these. It doesn't matter what orientation it's in. It's not gonna be glued to it. It's gonna be glued to that. How do we know where the battery's gonna go? Well, there's a little bit of guesswork, okay? So in terms of weight, this is in between these two for weight. So I'm gonna start with this one because it's in the middle. That doesn't mean this is the one I'm gonna prefer, but that's what we're gonna start with for positioning this, okay? That is a huge strap, by the way. Okay, so I think I'm gonna just cut the Velcro, or I mean not the Velcro, but the shelf liner to be approximately this size. Now it doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't even need to be pretty. But since we've already cut this stupidly a bunch of different ways, I'm gonna just cut it down here, and I'm gonna cut it right here. Now, this might be a little bit bigger, this might be a little bit smaller, depending on the battery. The idea is once you have that Velcro in there, it's gonna strap it down and it's gonna cling on, okay? So that's the idea. I don't like the way that looks, and I'm afraid it's gonna interfere with the Velcro, so I'm gonna waste this.
And that's still shelf liner, it's not Velcro.
Hurts my, thank you. Hurts my soul, thanks for correcting me.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for.
So then I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna slide it in here and see how it fits. Okay, fits great. If it fits, it ships. So now the next thing I need to do is I need to crack my China glue. China glue. China glue works great. Okay, right there. Just do a little bit more China glue here. And then just a little bit of China glue there, and then along this rib and along that. Now you'll notice I'm putting it onto the wood and I'm getting this stuff everywhere. Just take your hand, I'm getting the strings on my hand. Looks like a Spider-Man here, okay? See that? Mm-hmm. You don't want to get that all over the finish of your plane, or maybe you do. Maybe you're into that sort of thing. I'm not. okay? And also, you'll eventually start getting little cracks on these aluminized tubes. So what I do is I take electrical tape and tape over that, and then that keeps the tube so it doesn't go bad, okay? Now, also there's a little bit of curvature to this. And so my suggestion is curvature down so it flattens out. Okay, so now that we have this on here, watch this. This is why I like China glue. You can spread it out with your fingertip and you don't have to worry about having a huge problem like you're gonna die of cancer tomorrow. Well, I mean, you could die of cancer tomorrow. I guess I don't know if you have cancer or not, but you don't have to worry about like some weird, like, oh, I gotta go to the hospital. No, you can just peel it off like a booger. It's like, why do you keep walking away from me? See this? It's like a booger, okay? Now I can put the booger in the garbage can, right? And then get this. Now my fingers are clean and I can work again. All right, this is important. I'm showing you these details so you understand why we're doing what we do. Now, I didn't let that cook off, but if I was in a hurry, I could. I could pull this out, okay? See? Look how nice that looks. Beautiful, right? Now you could pull this out and you could let that cook off. You see those stringy things? That's a beautiful thing, okay? Pull it out, push it down, okay? You can let this cook off if you want. My experience with shelf liner, you don't have to do that. Just stick it in there, you're generally good, okay? And a lot of times that second time you put it down there, you won't ever get it out. Like it's done, that's stuck and it's not coming back off. If you try to do it, you're gonna rip it in a million pieces, all right? So now that we've got that in, we can decide where the battery's gonna go so that the center of gravity works out. How are you gonna do that? You don't even have a receiver in there. You don't have the canopy on. You do have the prop on, thank God. And you normally would check CG with the gear down. Why? Because we're most concerned about in the air, getting back to the ground. Okay, then we can adjust from there. These gear are gonna be about the same down as they are up because of the way they come out of the wing. Sometimes they're canted forward, sometimes they're canted back. Sometimes you have a nose gear that deploys out like this. It shifts your center of gravity a little bit. So you gotta take these things into consideration. We're not talking about enough of a weight difference between where this receiver goes, which is all of probably 12 grams. This could be anywhere in here and it'd be fine. And look, we have enough length here that we can, and by the way, you can mount this in a bunch of different orientation. I'm probably gonna mount it back here just because it looks like it's gonna work well. And this is end pin. This is end pin, okay? So the AR631 would be a top pin, which actually would work really nice in this application, okay? But in my case, I think I'm gonna just put it this way. So why don't we just plop it in there right now, okay? Sometimes it's easier to talk about it for a while, just talk out loud, because we're filming this for an audience of unknown skill level pilots to follow along, right? You don't have to do that when you're doing this yourself. So our video might actually be a little longer than your build, okay? So we have this. Notice that there is a regulatory sticker down here. If you glue this in, sometimes you wanna try to get a little bit of glue around the edge so that that regulatory sticker doesn't allow it to pop off. I've never had one come off. I glue them down all the time, okay? You can also use Velcro if you like. Doesn't matter what direction this goes, but you don't want it at an angle, okay? It can be this way, it could be this way, it could be that way. It can actually go this way, I believe, but I've never done it that way. It can go this way. I'm gonna just go this way or whatever way I can get stuff plugged in. We already know where things are gonna plug, except how do you know where they plug in here? First of all, you look at the silk screen, you can see S, plus, and minus. S is going that way. So how do I know what S is on these cables? There's two different color codes. My mind is blown. S is the lighter color, negative is the here, and positive is always in the center, okay? So Futaba is gonna be black, red, and white signal, okay? Hextronics JR is gonna be brown, red, and yellow or orange, depending on how you look at it. So signal is always gonna be your light color, okay? So I know that this is the ESC, so I could assume that's gonna be on channel 1, okay? And then this is gear, so that's probably gonna be channel 5. If it's not channel 5, we can always make that happening. Okay, so I'm gonna just go to channel 5 because I'm pretty sure that's what it's gonna be. Okay, and these are kind of keyed openings, just so you know. And then if you ever have one that's got this like weird rib along one side, just clip that off with scissors if you have trouble sliding it into your receiver. This is the elevator. I don't know if that's 2 or 3, but we're just gonna go here for now on channel 2. Notice that we're not in the bind program SRXL2 plug, okay? Aileron. Okay, and then this one is, wait, ailerons is 2.
Yeah.
Elevator is 3. Now, how do we know that? We'll show you here in a minute because we're to set up a profile. This is flap. So flap we're doing on channel 6. And then this one is rudder, probably, because it's not labeled, because this one's aileron, okay? Now, aileron is going to go to channel 2. Again, how do we know? This tends to be a bit of a memory thing, but we are going to show you, and we normally put the profile in first so we can follow along, and I'll show you that screen. It's called the monitor mode. So channel 4 must be the rudder. Now, if we have those backward, we'll discuss it here in a minute, but for now, since we've got cable management, it's like pretty much taken care of with one piece of tape. That's crazy. I might actually be able to just loop that. I might just be able to loop that and then just stick it down. What do you think? Because then your battery is going to come out here. So I'm going to try to tuck this down in so that it's in and below this, acting as a guard. I'm kind of thinking about, how do I make this beautiful? I think what we do is we go here. Do you hate that?
No, I like the antennas towards the back too, because then they're going to be out of the way.
Okay. The other thing too is if I taped in a different spot, which I can slide this tape still, because it's just masking tape, it's nothing special. You can also zip tie this in, but I don't like that as much. You could actually throw a zip tie around there and zip tie right there, but I would like to keep it centered. And I don't want to pull it back as much as I can pull it back, okay? And still have easy reach. Yeah, I like having it back here further.
Yeah.
Because that gets that out of the way of the battery when you're sliding the battery in. Okay, so we know we want it here.
Okay.
So now, you guys might be thinking to yourself, aw, shucks again. Son of a gun. I got to do one more wire.
What?
We'll do that next. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Watch, glue. This glue is going to go around here. It's just going to surround that opening. Then I'm going to go a little bit more right here. Now, because we have a gap there and there's nothing contacting through, we'll have to kind of play it by ear and see if we can, you know what we could do?
What?
That's probably about the same thickness as a shelf liner. Yeah, it is. And we've already got shelf liner sitting right here. So I'm just going to cut a little chunk of shelf liner as a filler. You know why?
Okay.
Because then we can just take a little bit of that schmutz and stick it down in there. And that'll, one more thickness, and that'll get us right to where we need to be.
Okay. Just to fill in that little void.
Yeah, just to give us a little contact area.
Okay.
I normally wouldn't care. Where did my China glue go? There it is. So now I'm just going to China glue this in too. So that is going to be glued and glued. I pulled some of that to get into that contact area. Okay. So pretty simple. It's just, you know, it doesn't need to be anything super sophisticated on this step. You're just basically gluing your receiver in. Now you could use double-sided tape if you prefer. I'm going to just tuck that into the pocket. And then I'm going to pull the whole assembly back out. And you can see what's going to happen. I'm a little bit too long on this, unfortunately.
Okay.
Whoever cut that did a terrible job.
They also are getting glue strings all over the place.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I repent. Now I'm going to pull this whole assembly out. And I'm going to just stick that down so it bridges the gap. Look at that. Nice little bridge. Tuck that down into the corners. Oh, and here's another trick, okay? So let's say you get, your fingers are all sticky. Step back, please. So let's say that you have, your fingers are all sticky. Roll this stuff off. The next gross tip from Brian Phillips RC. If you need to work on a gluey surface, but you don't want it to stick to you, what do? Lick your finger.
Gross.
I know, it's gross. It's totally gross. But guess what? That stops it sticking. And then look, now that's tucked in there perfectly. It's a perfect shape. Now I can take the bottom of my receiver. This is just being a pain. Hold that, please. I can take the bottom of my receiver and just put some of this on there. Should have let that cook off while we were doing that. Okay. Just got a little bit around the edge. And you can see, it doesn't take much. Okay. And then camera crew and I are going to lay this down. and I just kind of want to let this sit. We'll worry about the antennas in a minute. It's antennas if it's on a piece of equipment, and it's antennae if it's on bug. I had somebody tell me that in the comments. If you guys have something to tell me that I've done wrong for years, please leave it in the comments below.
Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do? Leave it in the comments?
Yeah, leave it in the comments.
Okay.
Okay, so now this, I'm gonna stick it down, it's not gonna stick, okay? Why? Because it's not quite tacked up yet. It's not cooked off. But guess what? I'm gonna just grab and use my finger to clean the excess off of the sides. And then I'm gonna quite literally peel it off. And I'm gonna just set it down just like that. And for a minute, I'm gonna clean my fingers and we'll come right back. All right, so we took a second and cleaned up, and while we're waiting, the glue was cooking off. And so now I'll just show you how this looks when it's cooked off. Get the strings out of your way, stick it down, and then we've got a really nice mating surface. We've got plenty of material to get good contact, and that's gonna be stuck there. Now I could probably quite literally hold the plane by that receiver right now, but I'm not gonna do it to prove a point. You guys can just take my word for it. Now, two things. These are supposed to be diversity antennas. This is what we call a full range telemetry, as opposed to flyby telemetry, like a 631 is flyby, this is full range, okay? So there's two ways you can do this. You can stick that down right there, and then you can stick this down, you know, like right there. So it's at 90 degrees of each other, but you gotta remember, this has that weird hood, so we can't do that. We gotta get these out of the way so that they are protected. You do not wanna kink these wires. They're coaxial cables. So that means there's a sheath around it. Then there's a conductor that goes through the center. Of course, the conductor through the center is the antenna. And then this sheath on the outside, you don't want to break into each other. You'll short it out. And then the 28 millimeters of exposed, at least in DSMX 2.4 gigahertz, will not work the way it's supposed to for reception, okay? Remember, an antenna receives information. It's not an emitter. It's a collector, okay? So I think I'm gonna take and do something very simple. I'm gonna show you the trick of the day. It's gonna be poking a hole with a toothpick. Toothpicks make for a really good size. And it's just easy to do. If you have forceps, which we had them out, we put them away just a second ago. If you have forceps, you can take and grab them at a weird angle like this, and then you can get into tight spots like this. And then look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna poke that through and just make a protrusion. And then I'm gonna take my antenna and just slide it through the opening. And all that does is just a holder, guys. It's not anything fancy. See, now it's through. I'm gonna go until the gray is out of the way. And then I can just do the second one. I gotta find a spot, and I'm gonna go this way. So I need to take and bite this down here. So 28 millimeters of exposure is what we want. It's not gonna be exactly 90 degrees, it's gonna be close enough. We have plenty of thickness here, so I'm just gonna go in here at an angle, and that's gonna be close enough to our angle for what we need. And then I'm gonna take, now do not clamp this on, but I'm gonna hold it right like this. And then I'm gonna guide it into the hole that we just created, the pocket. Okay. Is that the pocket? Yep, that's the pocket. And I wanna get that pocket deep enough that I can get, I didn't go quite deep enough. I want that gray to go in, okay? Are you able to see that or not? I can't tell.
Vaguely, your hand's kind of annoying.
So move to the other side.
That's worse.
Is it worse?
Yes, because this whole thing
Okay,
isn't
try that other side again. Sometimes it's hard to get the angle, guys. Okay, you see what I'm doing? I'm just going a little bit deeper with this. Then I gotta walk back and then go in. There we go. So that should give me plenty to get the gray all the way in. It's very important to get this gray in, and that substrate will help hold and protect the cable. And remember, I'm not crimped on, I'm just holding it real loose. See, there we go, beautiful. Now I can just relax this cable underneath and just get this down so that it's kind of out of the way. Now that one we can push through. And to be honest, it's kind of nice if we could have just a little tiny bit of glue on there, and that's gonna hold that for us. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this and just slather a little teensy tiny bit of China glue. It's kind of amazing that little tiny bit of China glue that we transfer from here will help hold this. Yeah, I don't know if I got enough. So now I'm just gonna slide this. I gotta grab it the other way. Again, not clamping on. Oh, that light does not help right now. There it goes. Thank you. So now that's in. And you can see the cable management was like a non-issue on this plane because everything was pretty much managed for us when we opened up the plane, okay? So super easy. And what I might do for cable management might be one zip tie. So we'll throw one zip tie on, and that's gonna conclude our cable management. Now, of course, we've got that one ambiguous plug, right? Mm-hmm. And that one singular ambiguous plug is gonna be for the elevator and rudder, okay? We're not 100% sure which one's which, but we think we know. Okay, so we got this one zip tie, cable tie, and we're gonna fold it and get a 90, fold it and get a 90. Of course, this is not included with the plane. And I'm just gonna come around here. Okay, one more fold. I'm just gonna fold it there. Kind of got that little kink in them when they're new. I'll kink it just a little bit further, and that gets me all the way around. Okay. So there it is. Now, I kind of like the idea of, I wonder if I should go around here, hun. Yeah, that's a better spot. Now, because we've got that tape on there, I can leave the tape or I can take it off, but I'm gonna use the tape to protect our cables, the bite. Okay. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to do it the way I did it, but if you're watching this video, you're watching this video because you either like watching me do stuff or you're waiting for the next joke, or you need help. And if you need help, my suggestion is this. You don't have to get help here. There's lots of really good resources that you can get help from. So I don't mean to toot my own horn, but if you are getting help here, my suggestion is you copy what we do. You're gonna have at least marginally good outcome, and you'll know based on the way our maiden flight goes, okay? So where else do you get a guaranteed good outcome? Not very many places. Now, I'm kicking myself because now I need to do this. This is for the pack telemetry. So this plugs in right here. And once it's plugged in, you got to get it right one way or the other, and it's keyed. So you see this little bump right there? That bump needs to go further up. So that means the red goes toward the Spectrum logo in this case. You can turn the light on. Okay. And then this is gonna chase back all the way down. But I don't want this to just be all loosey-goose and looking like crap. So what I'm gonna do is like what I always do. I get this wire, okay, and I work it out. Now, what do we know about metal? It's malleable and ductile. And so cable is made of metal, and so it's malleable and ductile. So that means you can make it into a shape, and then you can stretch it out. So don't stretch too much, you'll rip the cable because you are probably humanly strong enough. So you've got that nice little twist that I made, and you can do that all the way down the length by doing it this way. And as you walk, it's going to make a nice twist. Now you can also use a drill chuck. You can chuck this into the drill and spin it. We've done that for years, but I'm always too lazy to go get it. And so what I'll do is I'll just usually walk this down. Now, occasionally it'll start twisting, so I'll go out and pull it straight again. And again, this is one of those things where this is a highly subjective step. You don't have to twist this. You can just leave it all willy-nilly if you want. But my suggestion is that you go ahead and twist it because you're gonna have a better outcome. Now, why do we need to have a good outcome? Because if you don't have a good outcome, then you're gonna make a mistake, you're gonna crash your plane, things are gonna be miserable, and you're gonna quit. Brian Phillips RC wants you to be an airplane person for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is you'll be buying more planes, which helps to enrich our experience here on Brian Phillips RC. We want you guys to know what's out there, and if you stop flying, you're not gonna care, right? So it's a win-win-win. We want you to know what's out there, we want you to have interest in the next plane, and we want you to buy them. and we make small commissions. That's how we pay for this thing, okay? That's how we make this RC experience, this aerodrome happen, is by you guys being obsessive about this hobby just like we are, okay? So it's not a trick, it's not a gimmick, and it's not fake. It's very real, okay? That's why I'm so obsessive about this stuff, because I really love RC and I love aviation. And it is not for show, guys. It is, I mean, it might be for show in this video, but it's not for show. It's like, this is me. This is the way I am all the time. It's super annoying for my wife. That is not gonna reach all the way back like we would normally reach, but it'll reach far enough. So, like I was saying earlier, I kind of kicked myself when I was doing that zip tie. I can still pass through the zip tie, and I can pass under these two cables, and then I can bring it under and chase it all the way back to where? Well, I'm gonna get my forceps and show you. We're gonna go all the way back to this ESC wire, the main discharge lead, and that discharge lead is gonna be used to feed us telemetry data. It's gonna be like a multimeter. Now, we're not carrying current to the magnitude of what's going to the motor, so you don't need to worry about, you know, hey, that doesn't seem like it's gonna be big enough to handle a 6S load. Well, there's no load, it's like a multimeter, guys, okay? So now we're gonna chase back along with this cable. And so sometimes there's trick of the day. You could use zip ties, or you could be a smart feller and you could just wrap around this cable. And that's gonna help guarantee that it is not in your way when you're going to fly your plane, or it's less likely to be in your way. Okay, and then look what you have. You've got this wire that needs to be managed, and it needs to somehow get either to the end here, like we talked about, or somewhere in the middle, okay? In our case, it's gonna be somewhere in the middle. How are we doing on battery there, camera crew?
Probably 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. So that's where we're gonna be, right there. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to wrap this up before we run out of battery, folks, and then we'll finish our radio setup. You can't be there. So, this needs to poke into the red wire with the red wire, and the black wire needs to poke into the black wire. So how are we gonna accomplish that? There's more than one way to skin this cat. I'm gonna show you the way I usually do it, and I found good success doing this. It's not perfect, but it's definitely manageable. I use one of a few different things. I use either electrical tape or heat shrink. In most cases, it's electrical tape. Yes, I just used a toothpick minutes ago. We're gonna use another toothpick. So all the different things that you might need from your kitchen, we use an RC, okay? So my plan is I'm gonna stick this lead into the wire, and then I'm gonna tape over it with some black electrical tape, okay? So I'm gonna just cut off a little chunk so it's ready to go. I'm gonna stick it to the edge of the counter, as you can see here. Then I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna roll this lead toward me, and then I'm gonna poke and not stab my finger. And then once I'm into that copper, I'm gonna work it at an angle, and then I'm gonna pull it out, okay? Then I'm gonna take this wire, twisted and all. Turn that light back on. Thank you. It's blocked by my hand, dang it. Now I'm gonna penetrate into the cable. Okay. So now I'm gonna penetrate into the, can you go a little bit further forward? Like reach out, Megan, toward me. There you go. More. Stop. See how there's light shining on it?
I can't see.
Okay, well, the light's shining on it. Okay, so now I've got that in there. Is that in there good enough? I don't know, and I'm not gonna know until I hook it up to power, okay? But I have a predisposition that it's probably going to be good enough, right? So, because I believe it to be probably good enough, this is not gonna crash my plane, folks. This is just a telemetry test point, okay? I'm gonna pull this tight, I'm gonna wrap it around. If you can't see, I can't help it. I'm really sorry, hun. Camera crew is trying her best to get you guys a shot of what I'm doing. My hands are in the way. And that's just kind of unfortunately the way it's gonna go for a few seconds here because it's a tight spot. This is a big airplane, by the way. Lots of room to work, but that doesn't go up so the shadow's not right where I'm looking. Thank you. If you guys saw how our arms were right now, you'd be like, holy cow, that's ridiculous. I feel like we're trying to make children here, and we're just making a video about sticking it in the hole. You need to move to the left so that I can see. Thank you. All right, now it's in, guys. It's in. All right, now back you go just a little bit. We're gonna cut another piece of tape, guys. This tape is gonna go around the wire. It's gonna hold it in its position. And then we're gonna probably do one more tape joint to relieve the strain. And then we're probably gonna be out of battery. So we're gonna have to pick back up, okay? So you see, I wrap it, and once I wrap it, then I try to get in there and I pull it as tight as I can so as to prevent an easy separation, okay? So now you guys notice what's going on. We got all this Velcro and all this crap happening here. That's not ideal, okay? You don't typically want that all happening in that same spot because this is gonna be easy to yank out. So I'm probably going to have to use one more zip tie or two right there, and that's gonna hold it in position. And I'm hoping I get this done before the camera decides to die on us. By the way, if you guys are brand new to Brian Phillips RC, if you wanna help support Brian Phillips RC, the best thing you can do is watch videos, smash the like button, click the bell for notifications when you do subscribe, and then obviously buy planes, airplanes, quads, VTOLs, helicopters, whatever it happens to be that we're reviewing that you like. If we review them and you hate them, don't buy that one, buy a different one. I don't know if you can see, because I can't see very good. Then that's gonna relieve the pressure that gets exerted by this cable. Remember, you need to be able to plug in your battery, so this stuff's gonna get moved around. And then I'm gonna tie this together. And that's gonna help relieve the strain a little bit more, okay? Okay, there, that's tight. I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna turn this. It cut before I got the pressure on it that I was hoping to get on it. And that is going to probably work, okay? So now that I have wrapped around the sharp edge, I've got the cables down there behind the capacitors of the ESC. The ESC is there, as you can see. I'm just rotating that around. And there we have it, okay? So now this will plug into the battery. We'll get pack telemetry through our receiver, and so we'll know when we're about ready to lose power so we can land, or we can make other critical decisions at that point. But as you can see, the cable management was not too bad. There's plenty of room. And by the way, filming is a lot different than actually building. You should be able to do this with much less him-hawing around, because you're probably not gonna have 4 hands in the spot that I have 1 hand or 1 set of hands, depending on what you're doing. And that's something to keep in mind. If you see us do these videos and you think, good Lord, how did it take 5 hours? How did it take 4 hours? How did it take 3 or 2 or whatever it is? When you're filming it, it always seems to take longer, believe me. That being said, our next move is gonna be setting up the bind and fly type profile. So at this point, it'd be like you had a bind and fly, and now we just have to build the profile in the transmitter. Because our battery's about to die, we'll come right back. All right, so for radio setup, first step is I wanna get a battery inside of the plane. Obviously, it's dark now. We had to get memory taken care of on our camera. So this battery is a 5000 6S50C Gen 2 Smart Pack. And just to let you know, you can actually put it all the way up in here, but there are 3 wires coming out of the motor. And so if you're trying to reach it way up in here, just be aware that you're gonna hit those wires. Okay, so I'm just gonna load this. I don't know if this is the right spot yet. We'll have to do some testing for center of gravity reasons. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to pull the slack. Yep, there we go. We'll slide this. This is a huge strap, like it's gigantic. So I'm assuming you could put a much larger battery in here as well. There we go, there we go. Come on, work your way around. I like it when these things get down there. It makes it a lot easier to load the batteries. So I have to pull the far side to get it to slide down. And there we go, there we go, there we go. Beautiful, okay? Now, as you can see, that puts us way over here. So there's tons of excess.
Sheesh.
we could have a lot bigger battery in there.
Yeah.
And it would still fit. So if we go up to the 6070C from China Hobby line, it would fit fine. Or the 5000, which has just slightly different dimensions from this Smart Pack. It's a little bit more even on its dimensions here. Mm-hmm. Either one, any of them should fit. Okay, so now obviously we're not gonna plug it in just quite yet, but we are gonna need to bind soon. So the bind, there's a bind button. I'm pressing it, you can hear it clicking. Or you can use a bind plug, but generally we use the bind button on these planes. I like to have the plane capable of being level so that when we get ready to set up safe, we can level the aircraft, okay? Since this is a tail dragger, you know, sometimes you have to be a little bit mindful about how you're gonna level the aircraft, because in this case, you want it to be level the way it's gonna fly and not level on its landing gear, okay? But that doesn't have to be right away. I just like to have it prepared and ready to go, okay? So this is the way it is, and plus that helps me when I'm doing the setup so I can orient all the control surfaces. Also, make sure that your landing gear are free of your stand. If in doubt, double check, okay? So now our next move is gonna be to actually set up a profile. So the profile is pretty easy to do, but I have to do it on the transmitter. So we're gonna turn this on. I have to point away just for a second. I can't remember what the last plane was.
We should be okay. Should have done the J3 Cub.
Oh, the J3 Cub? Okay, cool. So if we run out of model memory, then that would be awkward.
On this exact
On
model.
this exact model.
Yeah.
Okay, so cancel and back, scroll to add new model, and then we're gonna scroll in an acro if it's on something else, and we'll create. Now this is where it really takes a long time because my model memory is almost out. And eventually it's gonna like puke and catch on fire and blow up or something.
We have no idea.
We have no idea. Maybe 250 models is kind of like a guideline,
Maybe.
more than a hard and fast rule.
Yeah.
So, okay, so it let us do it, so it must be fine. And so the first thing is we've already set the model type. If you go in here, it'll clear it out. If you change it, it'll clear everything that you've done. Model name, so this is, it claims it's 228, but we have quite a few before 0, okay? From previous models. So on the NX10, we had an NX8, we had another NX8, we had an NX6, and so those all were stacked on top of it. So the numbering is actually quite a bit higher than where we really are. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll over and we're gonna type in the value here, which is gonna be Yak-11 from HobbyKing. So we'll be right back. All right, so we've got the HKing Yak-11, 1450 millimeters. There's definitely not room for the Steadfast 1450 millimeter PNF. So we'll just go with what we can fit. Aircraft type, so we wanna scroll in one aileron and one flap. Now, of course, just remember that speaks to a pair of surfaces that are operated by one channel, okay? And we're gonna do a normal tail, and then we'll go down to select image and change this to probably a warbird of some sort, like a P50, P47. That's probably the closest we're gonna get, I think. P47. Okay, then flight mode setup. I'm gonna set it up on one of these switches, switch D in this case. Now, just to be clear, we do have retracts on this model, so we'll reserve that for retracts. We'll set switch B for the flaps. Switch C is not gonna really have any function unless we add something weird. Switch D will be AS3X off and then safe. And then switch E will be unused. Switch F will be my different settings for rates and expo. This would be where I would throw thrust reverse if we had an option for it, but I don't believe we have thrust reverse on this plane.
So
If we do, I don't know how to tap into it. And then throttle cut. And this will be our master gain on our knob, which is the rotary knob, not the right knob. I say right knob sometimes because that's our knob. All right, so now, because this is a 3-position switch, we have 3 flight modes tied to it. So I'm gonna scroll down one, next setup, and it's gonna say spoken flight mode. Why spoken flight mode? Because basically I wanna make this say what mode we're in, both on the display here during normal use and have an audible function, okay? So highlight, cancel, cancel, clears it, and then I can type in AS3X, which is gonna stand for artificial stabilization 3-axis. And then just keep in mind, this is just a label. It's user defined. You could put nothing or you could put something. It doesn't change the way that the system works, except that it happens to be tied to what that switch is calling out, okay? We'll show you exactly how to do it, and then you can copy along. AS3X. Now I want to make it say that, so I have to scroll way to the bottom. No, you can't go to the top and then scroll around. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom, like almost here. All right, so then we're gonna go on there's save. So the next one we see is AS3X, okay? Then we're gonna have this say off. So we'll actually have a mode where it's off. And that's nice. If you hand your transmitter to an old timer that just hates stabilizers, things like that, you can do that, which is kind of nice. Or if you find that the stabilization is overwhelming or you've got oscillations or something like that, then you can shut it off and make your adjustments, okay? And the same thing, we'll scroll way down to off. Okay, and then there's off. And then we want to change this one from flight mode 3 to cancel, cancel. We'll type in safe sensor assisted flight envelope. So this is going to be auto leveling. Oops. Okay, so now once we have that typed in, we can change the audio event, which means you have to scroll way down again. All right, so then we have safe mode, test. Okay, so you see the 3. Now keep in mind, these are just labels. They are not the actual function. It's just a label. It's tied to this switch and not necessarily to anything else. The flight modes are then tied back to this switch, okay? So then channel assign, I'm gonna go down here to verify where B is. Right now, B is assigned to channel 7. Now channel 7 is not a pluggable channel, so that's fine. But just keeping in mind that there are flaps on this system, right? Mm-hmm. And the flaps have already been assigned on channel 6. It looks like it says NA. So I'm gonna just unassign B to 7, okay? And then I'm gonna unassign these so I don't have them beeping at me throughout the normal use. And remember, all these unpluggable channels you can use to run flight modes and things like this, okay? So I'm gonna hit back. I'm gonna hit back. Now we're into the regular function list, okay? So function list, the first thing I wanna do is set up rates and expo. Now that's gonna be on switch F. I wanna set 5% for my lowest expo. I want to set 10% for my middle expo, and then I want to send 20% for my highest expo, where I'm going to also reduce the rates from 100 to 90. So we're going to start here. If it's not sensitive enough, we can go up here. If it's too sensitive, we can go there, and it will deaden everything quite a bit. The idea is wherever you end up at the end of a flight, you might want to set that back to the middle and then do a half and a doubling, right? So you can always get back to the ground. I rarely have to change it from this, but that's just for ailerons. Then I'm gonna do it for elevator, and I'm gonna do it for rudder. So basically all 3 of the primary flight controls are gonna be controlled here. And you're like, but Brian, what if I need to make an adjustment to just one, but not all 3? Well, then what you do is you make your adjustments after you land, okay? So if you're flying along, you need it to be more insensitive on the elevator, you put it to the lesser sensitive setting, right? But that doesn't mean that your roll authority and your yaw authority are screwed up too. So you just set it to the less sensitive based on any of your control axis. Then, once you've made your correction on the ground, you leave the other 2 the way that they were, okay? And so you'll notice I set these all 3 to switch F, and then I turn up 5%. Then I turn in 10%, then I turn in 20%, and also simultaneously reduce the rates. Now remember, Expo helps to soften the sticks, but it doesn't reduce the amount of maximum output deflection of your surfaces, except here, where we have decided to bring it from 100% throw to 90% throw. So it not only reduces the amount at the center of the sticks, it also reduces the maximum output. Okay, so that's where we're gonna take off. If we want less sensitivity, we've got it. If we want more, we've got it, okay? So then we're gonna do throttle cut. That's probably where it should start, but I'm just doing it in order. I'm assigning it to switch H. Now I'm gonna look down here in the monitor, and it's gonna show, by the way, this is the monitor, like the shortcut down here, but we also have a screen where it shows the monitor, and I'll show you how to get to that next. But you can look, it says -100. So as I move the throttle stick, there's a mode 2 transmitter, which means throttle, rudder, ailerons, and elevator, okay? So basically it's working. Now, if I turn it off, then throttle is free to move up and down, okay? I'm gonna turn it back on, and it's working because it has stopped the throttle from working. So I can hit back. Actually, I'm gonna highlight this. I'm gonna go back to switch H, okay? Where's the next for the alarm? Oh, that's throttle cut.
Yeah, there isn't one, yeah.
So, sorry guys, got mixed up. So there's timer. So I'm gonna make a timer. I know it's probably irrelevant because we do have pack telemetry on this system. It's not populated in this system yet because it hasn't actually auto-learned the fact that the receiver supports that function. Remember, this transmitter doesn't know what it's bound to yet because we haven't bound it, okay? So I'm gonna set the timer, let's set it 8 minutes with a 1, no, let's do 5 just to be safe. 5 minutes is pretty good. 1 out is active. That means anything over 25% is gonna start it. Clear is gonna clear it. At 1 minute, I want a voice call out. At 20 seconds, I want nothing. At 10 seconds, I want voice. And then at expiration, I want tone and vibrate with the tone every minute thereafter. So then what I was talking about earlier is you can go to the monitor here and you can see all these channels. Now, this is where you would normally, you would get to this point, then you would start your process of plugging in all the cables. But because this one's pretty basic, we just kind of jumped in. So let's look real quick and see if we did it right. Okay, so we have channel 1 is throttle. Yep, that's throttle. That's going to the ESC, okay? Then channel 2 is going to the ailerons. Yep, ailerons is on channel 2. Then elevator. Yep, there's elevator. That leaves the unmarked wire, the ambiguous wire. And then I know that we go to gear and then flaps. So we did set that up correct. Now, if you need an additional channel, remember, you can go up to the AR8360T and you can get all the same telemetry functions, but you have 2 more pluggable channels. So like if you had an air brake on this plane, I know we've had a couple of planes over the years, like the F-86 has a big air brake here, super cool function. And some of these different planes have, you know, like an air brake up here on the MiG-27. And sometimes we have bomb drop functions. In fact, I had a HobbyKing product that had a bomb drop function, super cool function. And each of them had a magnetically actuated rotary system, and it would spin like this and it would force the bombs off. It was really cool. So I accidentally dropped them on top of a government building.
Drop tank.
They were drop tanks.
Yes.
Drop tanks.
Drop tanks.
So anyway, okay, getting back to the point. So that's the monitor mode. So you can also see how things are functioning. And you can see right there, that's why I like this monitor. Or over here, you can also see it. That's why we set up the audio vents so that we know what mode we're gonna be in. Ironically enough, we haven't even set up the modes. We just have our label working, okay? We have an audio event and we can see it here, but it's not actually functioning anything yet. Okay, it's not controlling anything. All right, so now that we know we're wired up right, we have the basic things down. We gotta turn flaps on. We're gonna turn to switch B. We're not gonna actually set anything, but we're gonna set, well, we're gonna set one direction and one the other direction. Whoops, that should have been negative. Now, I don't know which way this is supposed to go, full disclosure. Yeah, it's just guesswork, okay? So at this point, I just want to be in the middle, okay? I want to set the speed to 2 seconds. That should be about right. And I'm not going to do any elevator compensation yet because I don't want to overdrive servos and damage them. So I'm going to put it in the middle setting. That should make the flaps droop down just a little bit. And that's fine. So when we bind, we're not going to overdrive that servo in to the pocket because this is going to be a split flap, okay? So we'll come back to that and we'll finish the rest of the settings, but I wanted it to be tied to switch B. Now, when I change my flap switch, you can see that changing, but eventually we're gonna have it tied to the elevator so it also compensates. Now, because this is still technically an inboard flap, we're gonna have the elevator go down as well. So we'll get that set after a minute, okay? So now I can hit back and we are basically done and ready to bind. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to bind by just hovering over the bind button or the bind selection. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. I wanna keep it kind of level just for easy figuring, but I need to be able to reach it. So I'm gonna tip it down. Now remember, check your polarity because this can be plugged in wrong, okay? I only know from experience. Okay, so here we go. So it's plugged in. Assume it's gonna cut your hand off until it chooses not to. Okay, so it's concerned because it's not bound. So now watch this. I'm gonna press this button until that flashes. Then I'm gonna make sure my throttle holds on and my throttle sticks down. I'm gonna hit bind. I've got my hand here, okay? So everything, that's a different arming sequence. Okay, so auto configuration is working until such a time as I have proven that it won't try to take off. I'm gonna assume it's gonna try to take off. So once this auto configuration is done, it's come up with normal mode, okay? So we have elevator going the correct direction. We have rudder going the correct direction, awesome. And we have ailerons going backwards. So I'm gonna click, servo setup, travel, reverse ailerons, roll left, roll right. First of all, throttle cuts on, throttle cuts toward my belly. I'm gonna walk out of the menu. I'm gonna hold the plane and I'm gonna give throttle. My prop is clear of the stand. I'm gonna give throttle. Nothing happened, perfect. Throttle cut is now off. It might start when I turn this off. Turning it off now, giving it a little bit of throttle. There it goes. Okay, so that didn't start kicking on until about 10, 11, 12%. That's very unusual. So throttle cut's on. It's been tested. I wanna go around and look at this. Yep, everything looks kosher here. As you can see, we're clean there. If you wanna just stay there.
Okay.
Throttle cut is off. I'm gonna give some throttle. It's weird that it starts so far up the sequence. Sounds cool.
Yeah,
That's 40%. There's 48%, that's got a lot of power. There's 50% throttle cuts on. Throttle sticks down. Throttle cuts off. Okay, throttle cuts back on. I've now tested this. I can now trust this, and I'm gonna show you what I do. Once I trust a plane, throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. I go ahead and unplug my plane. Okay, and I'm gonna plug it back in. Now, this is not very tight, okay?
On those pedals?
They're loose. The pedals need to be opened up. So I'm gonna show you how to do this right now. You can use a Phillips screwdriver. Pretty much any of the sizes should work. But if it's too big, it won't work, okay? These pedals are too collapsed. So I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna open that up a little bit by rocking the screwdriver back and forth, and that's gonna open that pedal, okay? So just a little bit forward and backward, a little bit left and right. Sometimes you overdo it a little bit, but that is going to, let's try it again. Throttle cuts on, throttle sticks down. I'm gonna go ahead and verify polarity. Yep, polarity is good. Oh yeah, way better. It's harder to plug in, but it's way better. You know what's going on? It's now armed. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
now that it's armed, I'm gonna shut off throttle cut. That started like way into the range. That's a little bit unusual. So what I might do is I might reprogram the ESC for the throttle range. So I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick. First of all, throttle cut's on, throttle stick is down. I know we've got plenty of clearance here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get myself in a safe space. Camera crew's gonna go right here. Throttle cut is on. Unplug. Now, throttle cut is off. Throttle stick is all the way up. You have to be all the way up. I'm gonna secure the plane like it's gonna go full bore. And it might if I did this wrong, okay? So I have to kind of get my elbow in the plane. I've got it secured in two different ways. One Okay, assume the worst case. Listen. All the way down. Okay, now watch this. It should kick in as soon as I start moving the stick now. Yep. Still seems like it waits till about 10%. Throttle cuts on. Now, can I trust it? Yes, I can. All right, why do I care? I don't want to get cut. Also, the flaps are working and we haven't even seen the gear work. So our next move is we have to make sure that the flaps are set and the gear work. And then if we have everything working in the right direction, we can set up first time programming. We also need to look at this tail wheel. Okay, so our rudder is pretty dang close actually. It's maybe not perfect, but it's close. That needs to be adjusted a little bit, but this needs to be adjusted a lot, okay? So in order to adjust this, there's twofold. I can either undo this screw and turn it, or I can adjust this, which I'm gonna adjust this, okay? So there's a tool to do this. If you don't have the tool, you can actually use your fingers, but it's just hard to do, okay? So then once you undo that, you can turn this in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A little bit more. I want that to be square. I want it 45 degrees, or excuse me, not 45. I want it to be 90 degrees of the ball, okay? So that's pretty close now. So I'm gonna just push that on there like I was gonna snap it. Does that look like it's about right? I can't tell.
Go a little bit more.
Nope, the rudder's not square though. The rudder needs to be centered. Okay. So how do we center the rudder? Okay, there's two ways you can center the rudder. One, you can undo this and then you can twist this on the end of the actual linkage. The other way you can do it is completely disassemble this, get to the servo, and you can undo the screw and then pick it up and move it one spline over. That's a more aggressive adjustment. I think the easier way to do it would be to try to undo this so that we can, see it's hitting too a little bit there, which we knew that was possible. I think the better thing to do is, see, I don't want to give up in monitor mode. I don't want to give up. To get that thing centered, I feel like I need to be at like 14, 13, that's a lot. That's a big adjustment. Also, show them from the center of the plane. Look at this. This is like cattywampus, okay? The rudder is not even like lined up straight at the top. You see that?
Yes, I do see
that. That is very weird. So I'm not sure what the easier approach is, but we got to get that centered at some point. The elevator is just barely up, and so I'm not going to throw too much effort into that because that might be okay. It might not be a problem. The ailerons look pretty darn square. So that's roll left, that's roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. So we're going in the right directions. We just need to get a little bit more on this rudder. And I want to talk about this too. I need to use needle nose pliers because I'm not getting enough adjustment out of this. Okay. I also feel like this rudder is just slightly over like we talked about. So if it's slightly over, see this is not square. Show them here. This needs to be flat, down, low, like here. Step back. This needs to be flat, not at an angle, okay? Can you see that? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna hold this really hard and see if I can bend that, not bend, but twist. And then we're gonna see what this, see it's not square still. I think we might be out of room here, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come out half a turn, okay? So that gets me to where I can square it, okay? Then I'm gonna try to put this on here and you guys will be able to see that's exaggerated over, right?
Yes.
Now, you can also tell because this is not square with the length of the plane. Do you see this?
Yeah.
Go low so they can see. Real low. Point it up here. Like this. You guys see what I'm talking about? That thing is not square, okay? And that's the problem is until that's square, I'm not gonna be happy. So I don't know if I need to undo that screw and see if I can square this up because I can only put so much of this threaded rod inside of this opening. Now, the other thing is I can unscrew this all the way off and cut off a little chunk of it, and that would allow me to put this on the end a little bit further, thus lining this up. The other thing you can do is you can do a little bit of a Z-bend in here. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so a Z-bend's gonna look like this. A little bit of bend, okay? And then I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna bend back the other way. And then I'm gonna go back this way, and I'm gonna bend back the other way. Okay, so that's gonna take up length, okay? It's sometimes easier to do that with a Z-bend tool, which I actually do technically have a Z-bend tool, don't I? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now look what happens, guys. So now that Z-bend is gonna pull this closer, okay? So we need to go a little bit more. You can also make it a 1, 2, 3 sides, but I'm just gonna do 2 on this one because I don't think we're gonna need much more. This can potentially weaken and break, so you gotta be a little bit careful you don't go over the top on this. See how far I've bent it now? Okay. See what's going on? Like as we get this thing out further, we're just slowly allowing this to come closer in alignment. Now the other thing too is as this moves, if I have this centered, so let's just trim it over. That's pretty dang close. And we are at -16. That's really close now, okay? So this is gonna be exaggerating the output of the rudder, okay? So I'm gonna snap this on now. So now that that's snapped on, we're really dang close to square. We've got a lot of play here though, okay? I'm just kind of wondering if I care enough. Maybe I just leave the trim.
Go trim in it, see how
Maybe
bad
I just
it is.
leave the trim before I go through the trouble of undoing all this crap. Because the only way to get this adjusted would be to trim this back mechanically to center, okay? See that number? Eventually, which my plane would go like veering way off to the left. So I would have to take this off, pop that vertical, and then spin that black end. But then I have to somehow brace this wire.
Yeah.
How am I gonna get in there and brace that without disassembling this whole thing? And once I've disassembled this whole thing, I can't put it back together because whilst all this is apart, I can't see if it's lined up right.
Right.
So just for grins, I think we're probably gonna have to do it the first time, right?
What do you mean?
We gotta do it.
Take the whole thing apart?
No, we have to adjust it. We just have to adjust it. Thanks, Clay. So right here. So we'll just put that there. We've got a super long screwdriver now. Okay, so we'll try to back this off. Thank you. And once we get this all the way out, we just have to catch the nut in the washer. Can you put your hand under there? Just so it falls into your hand. You gotta get it a little closer. Thank you. The washer is right above the lock nut, or the lock washer. Now let go. I got it this time. Yep. Okay, so now I can just take this and lay this down. And then I'm gonna push this up. This is a screw, of course. So now what I need to do is I need to make this go over. So that means I'm gonna turn it like this, and it's gonna slide in a little bit, but I don't know to what factor I need to do that. This is gonna be a clunky adjustment.
Yeah. Because that wasn't super easy to get in.
No, it was a pain in the butt to get in there. Although we are right side up now.
True.
You're blinding me. Could you move that just away from my eyes a little bit? Thank you. So now I have to figure out how the heck am I gonna brace that? Or can I brace that? I don't know. See, because when I turn this, first of all, it's not wanting to turn. Oh, good Lord. That's not feeling like it's gonna be super adjustable here. Let's try. See, the problem is when you do this blind, you don't know. There's 1/2 there's 2 halves, there's 3 halves, there's 4 halves, there's 5 halves, there's 6 halves, there's 7 halves. Why do I count in halves? Because that's a half rotation. I just count because if I need to go back, I can go back now without doing a bunch of complex stuff, okay? So slip that through. This may or may not be enough, and that actually wasn't too bad. As long as I'm turning that end in, I'm okay. If I'm turning it out, it's possible I could undo and fall out of one side. Okay, but if I'm forcing it further in, which thus pulls the rudder over and corrects our error, then I'm okay to do it blind. But if I was coming back off of it, I could actually undo it, which would be a problem. Okay, so now I need to drop this down. Good. Well, this is gonna go easier at least. So now that that's down, I have to try to get this washer up here first. Then I have to get the nut to follow. What a pain in the butt. So let's see if I can just hold this.
Light or no light?
Yeah, the light's fine. Okay, so now look, I'm gonna grab my nuts. Well, at least one of them. And then I'm gonna let that, see the washer's bigger than the nut. Mm-hmm. Come on now. Yes, yes. I did not think that was gonna work. Now, the other thing is, I don't even know if I'm lined up yet.
Right.
That looks pretty dang close. It's close enough for what we're doing, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely better.
Okay, so guys, this is the due diligence that you do to end up with a good flying plane, okay? It probably is not gonna be square. We're probably gonna still have to trim this plane because a lot of times rudders are not square because we don't use trim tabs on radio controlled airplanes, okay? So if you guys don't know what a trim tab is, a trim tab would be like a little small like mini rudder or mini elevator that would be mechanically adjusted, or the autopilot controls it in the case of, you know, a lot of general aviation planes. What is the purpose of a trim tab? A trim tab can either be used as like a pilot operation of the actual control surface, meaning that this is what you control, then this gets moved, so it would actually move contrary to the direction of impact. Okay, so this would go down, which would drive the elevator up, thus changing the pitch of the aircraft. Okay, that's one way. The other way is this is a mechanical adjustment that's like a trim for the plane. And that's why you have one on both sides of an elevator, okay? We don't have trim tabs in radio control, we just have trim.
Right.
We just move the whole surface. There are times people make some like really cool custom planes and they'll do trim tab style things. And that's why you need a million channels on some of these planes. Okay, so back here, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. Okay, now for the first time, we're gonna look at our landing gear. Throttle cut is on and tested because I'm gonna be in a potentially dangerous, compromising area. Okay, very nice. By the way, the gear are canted forward on this model, and that is opposite of what I want. So I need to go in, click, servo setup, travel, sub trim, reverse, gear. Gear are up, gear are down, okay? So real quick, looks like a solid, but there is a spring-loaded oleo, sweet. Okay, so that's really nice, and soft tires. We don't get the combination of those very often. Usually we get one or the other. If we're lucky, we get one or the other. If we're really lucky, we get both. We got both on this plane. Now, just because I don't want anything to pop out, I'm gonna go ahead and load the canopy back on. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed the lights yet, I did. We haven't really spent any time talking about them yet, but there is a forward-facing white light, nav lights left and right, very bright, very gorgeous. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this plane over. We've already vetted the motor, so we trust it. How do we look for the landing gear bays? Looks really nice. White on the back side of the doors. I was wondering if they'd do like green or something. They didn't do anything like that. Okay, so let's give you guys a better view of the split flaps and the gear. So the gear are pretty fast. But now you guys can see this better. Spring loaded, but they're spring loaded here, which is really nice. A lot of times they're down at the bottom. I love this. Beautiful. They feel really stout. I hope they're as stout in reality. Oh, by the way, let's talk about this glue that's pooping out. Show the people on my exhaust port.
Where? Oh, I see it. Way over there.
Did you figure it out?
Yep.
Okay, so when you use China glue, sometimes it poops out. Grab it, pull it off. Throw it in the garbage can.
Are you sure? I'll have to keep that.
I was thinking about keeping it.
Yeah, use it for something else.
You talked me out of it. So, now that we have all the main surfaces working, we have to get the flaps set up. We have throttle working. We've got a battery in there that's working, but we need to get CG worked out too. Also, this Z-bend, you can have a better view of it now. Be kind of nice to straighten that out so that it's, there we go. That's straight now. Okay, so as I actuate the rudder, you can see how all that works. Beautiful, right? And soft, which is super cool. And I gotta say, it's pretty soft compared to the mains, which is nice. Now, flaps, good. We're not gonna overdrive them, so that's nice. So I can go back into my flap system. Here it is. Click in there. Instead of minus 66, I'm gonna just watch that number as I scroll. Why is it going the wrong way? Oh, because I was scrolling up the wrong way. It's a good reason. Okay, slow now. That's minus 100 does not seat it all the way in the pocket. That's not unusual. This one's not down as far as that one, I noticed too. Okay, so now takeoff flaps, now landing flaps. Now, I'm gonna go to landing flaps and I'm gonna just scroll this up to 100. Okay, so now that we know this isn't gonna be a problem, I'm gonna exaggerate this. So on takeoff flaps, you can see the elevator comes down, so we're going the right direction. So I'm gonna probably do like 6% and 10%. Okay, so, or 6 and 9%, how about that? So I wanna make sure this goes down, plane's upside down, sorry for the confusion. As the flaps go down, I want the elevator to go down. That's because when you deploy inboard flaps, if they're close to your body, they're inboard, as opposed to flap runs, which are outboard. These would be inboard, so it's gonna make the plane porpoise. It's gonna go up like this. It's gonna balloon, okay? Not porpoise, balloon, okay? So to counter the ballooning effect, we're gonna put the elevator down and it's gonna help keep you level. That also allows for more slowdown, okay? Because normally when you deploy flaps in an airplane, you wanna be able to point the nose down without gaining speed, okay? Now, notwithstanding jets and different types of wings, let's just talk about a regular inboard flap. That's the way they work, okay? Split flaps or regular inboard, regular Fowler flaps, any of that stuff, it's gonna operate the same way with regard to the elevator correction, okay? So we'll do 6 and 9. So this will go down more for landing flaps than it does for takeoff flaps, okay? And then the elevator will continue to function as it had ordinarily functioned. Okay, so we've got that set now. Under servo setup, you can go to travel and you can go to flaps. Now, with the flaps in the stowed position, I'm gonna overdrive them. So from 100, we're gonna go up until they're tight. And this one's tight, but that one's loose. And I'm at about 106. So there's 115, there's 150, that's a little much. Let's go 125, that's usually about where it needs to be, okay? So this is stowed, that's stowed. But since this one's running into it's tight now, this one's not as tight. The only way to really fix that is to take off one of these and screw or unscrew one end of this linkage, okay? Then I can also make it so that during landing flaps, I can have more deployment. So you see how that white box jumps from this position up to that position? So now in this position, I can highlight this. Whoops. And I can go out more. So it went to 126, 125. So far, I'm just looking here to see that I'm not overdriving, and I'm not. Okay, so there's 150, and we're not overdriving, we're not hitting anything. We're not running into ourselves, so we're actually okay. So I'll go ahead and let those go to 150. Now, walking out of the menu, so basically on Spectrum, you have 0, then you have minus 100, and then you have 0, and then you have plus 100, and in our case, we're going to plus 150, and we're going to minus 125. So you can go all the way to 150 minus and 150 plus. So that's 300 counts of unique precision points, okay? There's quite a bit more in reality, but those are what we use as a user. There's also sub trim, which is like 4,095 or some such thing. I'll show you that real quick. So it's under servo setup. If you scroll over to absolute travel, then you can set your absolute travel here. So it's like 4,096 absolute positions, okay? But now that we have plus 150 and minus 125, that's just off of the full 300 that we could normally consume. The reason we want that is because in the flat menu, you can only have plus or minus 100, okay? So now the other thing is, for takeoff flaps, I generally don't want as much deployment. So I'm gonna favor down to the negative side. So let's do like minus 40, okay? So there's normal flight mode, takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Now, I am not okay with just letting that overdrive while this one doesn't. Because what's gonna happen is this servo, if you don't know how this works, there's a motor and it spins, okay? Then it has gears and the gears offset each other, and eventually, you have a gear ratio that makes the servo arm spin really slow, even though this motor's cruising, right? Like hundreds of RPMs. But this is obviously like less than 1 RPM, okay? So we gear it down so you have more torque. But then on this output shaft, there is an attachment point to a trim pot, which is a feedback potentiometer. That potentiometer is just sliding along a resistive element, and it's indicating a resistive value. That resistive value goes into a control circuit. The control circuit then knows what position the output shaft is located. Now there's ways you can trick it, there's ways you can switch it so that you can have like a servo be a reverse servo and so on and so forth, which we're not gonna get into today. But what'll happen is it's fighting to find position, 125, and it can't get there. It's only at 123, but it wants to get to 125. Oh man, it might even have slowed down the output of this motor, but it's gonna sit there and spin. It's gonna try. Pretty soon it's gonna be hot and it's gonna screw up. And the next thing you know, you come over and touch this and it's like on fire, and this one's fine, okay? So that's why we need this to not be too far, okay? Because like, watch this. This is how you can test. Does it stop? Does it make noise? That is rock solid. That is not as tight, okay? This is very tight. It's probably close enough that we could let it go, but I'm just gonna show you how to fix it if you would have to fix it. Throttle cut is on and tested, okay? Meaning I move my throttle stick up to guarantee that it's not gonna move. In order to actually do this, I'm gonna use needle nose pliers and a screwdriver, just similar to the way we did before. And we do 4 millimeters.
Oh, front
we do have a 4 millimeter, yep. So I can just put the nut driver on here. Now I can hear it.
Yeah.
So what's gonna happen is it's gonna shoot out past. As soon as this comes out. So this is why you might, if you were building a balsa wood plane, you would never get away with overdriving a servo because you wouldn't be going into foam, which is a compressible material. You'd be going to balsa wood, which is actually sort of compressible, but not like if you've got a basswood or like a plywood or something like that. Okay. So watch this. It's gonna want to shoot out a little bit. When it comes out, watch it. Watch it. Oh yeah, it's got lots of pressure on it. I might have to use a screwdriver to undo it, in fact, because it's pushing so hard. Watch this. Once this comes out, I'm gonna shoot past just a little bit. Yep, there it goes. See, it's pushed it at an angle, okay? So what I gotta do is I gotta turn this in a couple of turns. Not a bunch, just a couple. And I'm gonna get my needle nose pliers. So remember, on the rudder, we didn't have access to the shaft, and so we couldn't hold it, and It's like really annoying. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the shaft hard, and then I can twist this. I'm gonna use a screw to actually help with this. Yep. So there's 1/2, there's 2 halves. So that'd be like 1 full turn. And you want this to be square so that it's not in a weird position, okay? And then are we in the outside hole? Yes, we are. So I'm gonna just slide this back through, and then I'm just gonna function the flaps. Oh yeah, gorgeous. That's good. We got enough slop on there. That is beautiful, folks. Now, I like overdriving into foam when you need a really tight fit, but it's still hard on the servos, and it is going to be near impossible to stop it from catching on fire. You wanna know why? Because this is where they're gonna be stowed for the whole flight.
Right.
You're only gonna have them deployed during takeoff and during landing, or if you're like me, 3/4 of the time, because you always have flaps on for something.
But there's nothing that says stop trying to drive, like you're going
Nope.
too far, stop
Nope.
trying.
You have to just know how to check for this stuff. And
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why on Brian Phillips RC, we take the time to teach you how to do this stuff, guys. Believe me, it's a lot easier to just slap a sticker on and say it's done, okay? I got it tight and then I backed it off. So tight, back it off. Then make sure it's free. That's a little bit tight still, actually. Because remember, this is a nylock, so it's gonna, yeah. You don't want any resistance there. You're actually pivoting on the ball anyway. But you see that spinning? It doesn't hurt anything, but then it could spin. There's 0 resistance now, okay? Keep in mind, if you don't brace this nut, it's not gonna loosen. And it's a nylock, okay? Some people would argue, tighten this tight, 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 let it pivot on the ball link, which you can do that too. Okay? So it doesn't hurt anything, but I just want you guys to know that. Also, this is bent. See that? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna open the flap, I'm gonna take and bend it back. Just a little bit, only the corner, okay? Now watch this. Oh my goodness.
This corner, you need to do the same thing on this corner too. Just a little bit.
How much?
Like what you did on the other corner.
This one's not as thick. Okay, you guys see, show them up here so they can see. You guys see what I'm doing? Now that's foam. What's gonna happen when it hits? It's gonna get into home position, it's parking. Good?
Better.
Here? So guys, what have we learned? This is how you set up your plane. If you weren't doing any stabilization, then short of the part where we were talking about AS3X and safe labels, you'd be done. But we have to turn on the stabilizer and we have to turn on auto leveling. And that's gonna be the next part of this programming, okay? This is really critical. If you guys don't think you want stabilizer, you don't know what a stabilizer does, you've never used a stabilizer, do this thing, okay? You want a stabilizer. If you're old timer and you know how to fly and you're like, you don't like the way it makes your plane feel, do it anyway and then turn it off. Because the first time you take off and you realize just how rock solid this plane looks and how beautiful it looks and how great it flies, you're gonna be like, I wish I would have been using the stabilizer before today, okay? All right, so remember, we've done a lot of planes, but I understand that it is ultimately a personal preference, okay? Auto leveling is not a personal preference for beginners. You need something to help get your plane level when you're flying, okay? So, come back around, camera crew. So when we do this part, we like the plane to be in this situation. This is where I was talking about making it level earlier, okay? So sometimes you gotta get a little creative to make this plane level in a plane stand. Sometimes you don't, sometimes it's really easy, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna make it easy on myself and put a pillow under there. And then let's see how we look. Now you don't have to get a sight level out or anything like that, but this thing is too high now. We need something that's about half that thickness. Or slide it forward. I bet that's about right. Still not enough. I need less.
It's still too high.
A little bit. It's almost right. What if I got this blanket that I use?
You might have to use my holy blanket.
This one?
Yeah.
Is that the one? The one that I cut a hole in?
Yeah. Yes, that one. Every day.
That could come in handy.
Nah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put this here, okay? So now that that's there, are we level yet? Looks like we might need a little bit more. It's pretty dang close. Okay, let's just call it good.
Okay.
That's good, right? Now, this process is fairly quick and straightforward, but you have to have everything working. So what do we do when we're not sure? We verify it, okay? Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right. Yaw left, yaw right, steerable's working. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Now that doesn't actually have any relevance with forward programming, but I wanna make sure it's right. So click, scroll down to forward programming. Oh, also we'll do telemetry first. Volts. I'm gonna set this to 6S, okay? Warning reports, I want every 15 seconds, only for minimum voltage, and it's gonna be in a voice, okay? So she's gonna talk when it gets low, right? Vario we're not using, altitude I don't care about, but we do actually have altitude in here, okay? Now watch this, this is kind of cool. There you go. That's our voltage on the pack right now. So when we get to the point where we're low enough to alarm, it'll alarm. You also have altitude. Evidently we're 18 feet below zero. It's kind of interesting. But doesn't matter because we never actually set it.
So it doesn't know where it is yet, does it?
Nope. We probably will get it in forward programming, I'm assuming. Okay, so gyro setup, first time setup. Make sure it's all set, okay? Next, next. Set it level, continue. Set it on its nose, now continue. I will click after I put this on its nose. Just so you know, throttle is not gonna work in forward programming. If you don't have throttle cut on, it will force you to do that. Putting it on its nose just means tipping it this way so it can calculate the position. That's the way it looks. Let's show you what it looks like by showing you inside the plane now. Just as a refresher, for those of you who had forgotten, you can see there's the plane. So the plane's sitting like this, so we got the Spectrum logo going that way. So let's pull this open and see if that's correct, okay? Does that look correct to you?
Yes.
Does it look like this drawing? Can you get them in the same shot?
Yes.
Okay, good job. We did it right. So now I'm gonna put this back on. And I'm actually kind of curious if I can just push it down. You can just push it down, but just make sure this latches. All right, so now that we have confirmed that it's in the correct position, you can also scroll that in. If you have a plane that's really hard to pick up, you can just scroll in the correct orientation. Now I'm gonna hit continue. Gain channel select. I want my rotary knob to be my gain channel. So I'm gonna select it by selecting that. Okay. And then I'm gonna hit apply. Now watch. You'll hear one dance, not two, but one. That's one. Okay, so now I'm gonna click. Then I go back in, so I just brought us into forward programming. So I clicked, it was right there. It hasn't even populated the screen yet. So gyro settings are here. Okay, so AS3X settings. I like to turn that up for set and for my testing. Fixed adjustable, it's all adjustable in mode 1, mode 2, mode 3, but it's not changing. Why? Why? Because we haven't set up flight mode. So let's change our flight mode channel from inhibit, meaning we haven't set it, to what we want it to be, okay? So I want this to be, which one do I want?
Well, D, but D isn't aux 1.
That's right. So we'll do this and just watch what happens, because we set it to switch D, but that's the default for D. Not changing, not changing, not changing, okay? So we're gonna walk all the way out, we're gonna click, we're gonna scroll down to System Setup. We're gonna disconnect RF, acknowledge that, shuts off our little RF indicator. Then we can go down to Channel Assign. Now watch this. Pick a channel, any channel, doesn't matter. I would prefer something that's non-pluggable, so let's just pick, for grins, let's do channel 10. Switch D or scroll to flight mode, because either D or flight mode will be acceptable, but it's on channel 10 now, okay? Walk all the way out. Now jump all the way back into forward programming, gyro settings, F mode setup. Now watch this, FM channel, aux 1, no. Look at this. F mode, wow, aux 5, channel 10. See the channel number and then what it's supposed to be associated with, F mode. Now watch what happens. Booyah, channel 1, it's flight mode 1, flight mode 2, flight mode 3. Okay, so now these are associated. So I want AS3X on, I want it off, so inhibit, and then I want it on. Then I can hit next, back, AS3X settings. Now look at this, it added some features in here, okay? So you've got the gains, look at this, flight mode 3. Flight mode 2, there's nothing, so it's got no gains. Flight mode 1. This is your default settings for those 3 values, 40, 50, 60. You can go in and scroll whatever you want into here, but because they are adjustable based on rotary knob, where did we set that, by the way? We already set it, remember? Whatever this setting is, that is 0. That is 40%, okay? You understand? So if you're halfway on your rotary knob, then you'd be at 20. So the master gain, this is what the maximum setting of this knob would be, okay? So right now, I like my planes to end up in the center, so that when I go from model to model to model, I end up about in the center. But if it's like super windy day, I can kick it up. If it's super calm day and I'm getting a little oscillation, I can kick it down without going through a full setup, right? That's true for 1, that's true for 3. So in safe mode, you also have access to changing your gains for stabilization. We'll come back to safe in a second too. Right, then there's this stop lock release rate. We don't mess with these yet because it's part of AS3X Plus. And you'll notice that there's no setting for number 2 because we have that in the off. Okay, now watch, there is a next on the screen. So that's stop lock rate, and then that's the stop release rate, okay? So those 2 functions speak to when you're flying really fast and it starts to have a flight controller induced oscillation, it will overcorrect. That's what this is used to undo. So you can have a higher amplitude of gain without oscillation, or the oscillation can be mitigated to unnoticeable amounts. That allows you to have more gain and a more solid feeling plane all at the same time, okay? And at high speeds if you want, okay? So I don't mess with those, I just leave them the way they are, okay? First time safe setup. FM, it's already been set. We're just gonna confirm, hit next. I'm gonna continue. I want it in this mode. So I'm gonna hit next, next. Now, level model and capture attitude. You can highlight this and then click. This is where you need your plane level. So you can see we're barely off from 0, okay? And to be honest with you, that -1 might be because we just don't have this perfectly level, okay? So I'm gonna do it again. I usually do it a couple of times. The other thing is that battery tray might not be perfectly level, okay? Mm-hmm. But either way, that's what it's in. Okay, so now watch this. See how it says safe mode, inhibit, safe mode, inhibit, safe mode, inhibit. I'm gonna do self-level angle demand. So that is going to, self-level means it's gonna auto-level. Angle demand means you're limited within a specific envelope, okay? So in this case, that is what you're looking at here. Here's your angle limits. I like to set them all to 60. That's going to be 60 degrees. So now you'll be allowed to pitch up 60 degrees, pitch down 60 degrees, roll left or right at 60 degrees in safe, but it's going to automatically level. Okay. Now I'm going to apply 2 dances. 1, 2. That doesn't mean it's on, it just means it's activated. In this case, it happens to be on because my switch is in the on condition. Okay. So now I can walk out into my regular function list.
AS3X mode. Safe mode.
Now, even though that's just a label, the label corresponds to reality. Ah, weird. So, watch this. Stick down and to the right in safe. It limits the amount of travel because you're always working your way to an absolute position, right? If you're beyond level, it'll actually let you go all the way to 100% output. But if I'm requesting up elevator, eventually, when you get to 60 degrees, it's gonna stop giving you up elevator. It's just gonna be level. And I'll demonstrate that here. It's kind of tricky on this as being a big plane. Okay, so camera crew, come over here and pull back on this. Mm-hmm. You ready to point the camera? So pull back on the elevator. Watch this. When I get to a certain attitude, 60 degrees, it's gonna stop letting me do it. Now, hold all to show them the elevator. See the elevator? All the way back.
Yep.
Now watch this. If I go past, it's gonna try to bring it down to there. That's the limit. Now push down on the elevator. See this? Eventually, you get to the point where it stops giving you output. Now, roll the aircraft. Okay? See? Eventually, you're gonna get to the point where it's gonna stop. Now, let go of the stick. Now, I'm gonna flip this plane over. This is why we vet the throttle cut so many times. On its back, quickest route to level. Now, also, look at the elevator. Without any input, it's giving me up elevator. Why? Because it wants to level the aircraft. That's level, and that's based on the -1 and 0 readings that we had in that safe setup. Now also, look at this, watch this. I'm flying uphill. Why? I'm not getting any stick input. Bring that sucker level. Now I'm happy. Okay, that's AS3X and safe working together, but safe is the only thing that's active right now because safe is active all the time, whereas AS3X is only active after you've engaged throttle by a certain threshold, in this case 25%. So throttle cuts off, checking for prop clearance, and here we go. Jeez. That is mean sounding. Throttle cuts back on. Now AS3X should be working. How do we know? Gains all the way up. I'm in AS3X, not off. Look at the rudder. Towards you, toward me, elevator up, elevator down, roll up, roll down. Now watch the other side. Up, now down. Why do I care? These are sharing a channel because if it's wrong, we need to know so we can fix it. So that one up, it should resist up. Down, it should resist down. Up, it should resist up. Down, it should resist down. The rudder should go towards you when I push the tail towards you. Yep. Toward me when it comes toward me. Yep. Elevator up, elevator down. And you're like, what is this, voodoo magic? No, it's a stabilizer. Okay? You notice it's not doing anything right now. So I'm going to teach you how to check. That's how you check. You move the control surface. You move. Okay, so we want to set the expectation that this is going to come toward us. Okay? Toward us. Away from me. Toward us. Away from me. Now, watch. Master gains all the way up. Off. Safe. Off. AS3X. Off. AS3X. Gain 50%. Gain 0%. Gain 50%. Gain 100%. Now, that is 100% of 4x, okay, on gains, right? So you can, of course, actually change the gain value for each of the 3 individual axes, or you can just turn your master control up or down. So, going back into the forward programming, gyro settings. Now that we have tested all that, I'm going to change this to 1x. That's a more conventional setup, okay? Now I'm gonna show you one other thing too. This should still be working, so watch. Gain all the way up. It's working, it's just harder to see. So why did we turn it up? Because I want to be able to see. Seeing is believing, seeing is proving, seeing is testing. If you don't see it work, you're gonna end up flipping upside down and hitting a curb, okay? I've done it many times. Well, not many times, I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
So, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. Don't be afraid to use your transmitter. Simulate what should be happening. Help your brain to see what's happening. Learn how to test a plane. I can do this in my sleep because I've done it so many times. You wanna know how many times I hear from people that say, I disobeyed your recommendation, instruction, whatever you wanna call this thing, and I didn't test it, and then I crashed, except they usually don't say it that way. They say, I did everything you said and it crashed. And I'm like, did you? Well, I didn't check it. Check it. Check it once, check it twice, check it 3 times, and for good measure, check it again. It's not that hard, it takes seconds. You're gonna waste $500-600 on a plane and crash it in 30 seconds. This is a good way to do it. Don't check, okay? Because if this stabilizer is going the wrong direction, guess what's gonna happen? As soon as some wind or environmental impact rotates your plane, it's gonna accelerate the rotation until, boom, everybody dies. And it may be, the cat didn't like that. The elevator is gonna be a little bit less aggressive in that regard, and same thing with the rudder. But if it happens, you're gonna induce and then accelerate the roll. So you can also quickly turn it off, or you can quickly turn the knob down, whatever's easier. But you don't wanna have to do that crap.
And your brain
you
isn't
will not
gonna
connect
realize
the dots
it.
quick
Nope.
enough.
Nope.
If you're inexperienced enough to not test, you will crash. I have done it, many have done it. Okay, now that we've gone through that, let's also show you one other cool trick. System setup, orientation, oops.
It's under utilities, I think.
Yeah, utilities.
If that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, there it is. Gyro response test, watch this whopper. When you put the gyro response test on, it's like you'd have to be blind to not know. Watch. Whoop, 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 whoop. You could really tell really clearly what's going on, okay? But I actually like my test maybe a little bit better, and here's why. Because I can see just as good in real life. Plus, I'm seeing it work like it should work, instead of like in some weird test menu. Okay? The thing that's nice about this is it's easy to film, okay?
And it's very obvious.
It's very obvious. Now, as soon as I walk out of this menu, watch everything snap back to normal, okay? Then it goes back to normal, okay? So that's a super handy tool, and the thing that's nice about it, is you don't have to go in and change your gain, okay? Now, let's suppose, now I'm gonna turn my my rotary knob back to 50%, so about halfway, okay? My rotary knob is set up the same on every plane. Every plane that has a stabilizer like this, it's set up the same way. If this were a bind and fly E-flight plane, I wouldn't need that because we don't have that access without fully resetting the receiver.
Right.
I have done that a few times, like slow ultra stick, for instance. I added flaperons that don't come by default. I don't know why, but I added it. Then I have this, okay? Almost every other plug and fly that you see has this. Mm-hmm. And then a few E-flight planes that were bind and fly also have this. The point is, assuming what this is a fair bet. It's a safe bet. Assuming that my flaps are here is a safe bet. Assuming that my gear is here is a safe bet. Assuming that there's some ulterior function on C is a safe bet. In this case, I don't have anything. Sometimes I'll mix aileron to rudder, especially on some big warbirds and cubs, okay? And I will sometimes do a contrary mix depending on if we have some weird asymmetrical output, okay? I also know, because I've set these here, for a long time, I would set it to A if I didn't have retracts. The problem is, I get off the ground and what do? I try to put the gear up. They're fixed gear, Brian. And what happens? Safe comes on, limits my bank angle or pitch angle, And so I end up flying so extraordinarily close to the trees. Fortunately, that tree is now over here. So we moved the cherry. All right, so in a nutshell, let's wrap this up with a bow. We have a yak that's sitting here. A few, just very short hours ago, it was in that box. And for you, it might be a couple of days, but it might be at the distribution warehouse, and you might have just put your credit card numbers in and hit enter, following the link in the video description below so you can help support Brian Phillips RC. But short of that thing showing up on your doorstep, you should be able to follow along with exact steps to set up this NX10 or NX8 or NX6 or NX7E. There won't be an audio event on 7E. But beyond that, you should be able to follow along almost exactly verbatim and get a very good outcome. Now, if you see my maiden flights and this thing sucks and you don't like it, but you still want a warbird, we've done a ton of other warbirds, but I kind of doubt it's gonna suck. This thing looks like it's gonna be good. Also, I gotta say, bright LEDs,
Yeah.
beautiful finish, a little bit sloppy here, a little bit sloppy here. It's kind of weird on the canopy. I'm not super excited about that, but I am very happy with the way the stabilizer worked on this. I'm very happy with the way everything went on the radio setup. The prop is huge. It sounds amazing. It shouldn't sound like much, but it sounds like a lot because it's a big, obnoxious prop.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how it flies. Also, I gotta say, one of the bigger props we've seen. The last thing we need to do before we can wrap this up with the bow is check the center of gravity. Why? Because if your plane doesn't pivot at the right spot, it's gonna fly weird. Your elevator is gonna be too touchy, your gains are gonna be all over the place, and you're gonna have an overall bad experience. So how do we do that? We get a marker and we get a pair of calipers. Now, if you don't have a pair of calipers, you can use just a regular tape measure, but we're gonna use calipers. What do we need?
This says 145 to 150, measured from the leading edge at wing center.
Oh, that's kind of neat. So the wing center is what they mean is right here, if you look, I've got my stabilizer off, by the way, now. This is the wing center, right? Or wait, how do they draw it?
I mean, like in front of the, right at the front of the swoop is like.
That's not the same as, well, okay, so we're gonna measure from here. We're gonna measure from here, okay? So how much? 145
to 150.
Good Lord. So we're at the end of our range. We're almost out of batteries on this thing too. So 150, then I can set this. So what I'm doing is I'm lining up with the front of the wing, and it looks like 150 is this mark here. Okay, so then 145 would be, how about we just go 5 millimeters? Okay. So we'll go 5. That is a pretty tight range.
It is.
Good Lord, for a big plane. So I'm gonna go like this, okay? So now we have 2 spots. We have 1 spot here, and then we have the second spot here. Now, why do we do it like that? Because I can feel it with my fingers. I make a dent in the foam, and then I mark it, and then I mark it. Now, what does the center of gravity mean to you? It means the difference between a tail-heavy plane and a nose-heavy plane, okay? Nose-heavy planes tend to be overstable, okay? Overstable, to the extent that it's a problem, means that your elevator is not gonna be effective, and you may not be able to pull out of a dive. An extremely stable plane is gonna fly like this, straight into the ground, okay? Or straight into a mountain, or straight into a tree, or straight into a bush, or whatever it happens to be. But if you're understable, it's gonna be like, woo, 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 like that until straight into the ground, just in a curved line. So what you wanna be is you wanna be somewhere in the middle. This range doesn't leave a lot of room for in the middle, but it is still gonna be in the middle. 5000 6S 50C Smart Pack, let's see how it does. Okay. Turnigy obviously has an off ring. If you're buying this plane, you wanna support Brian Phillips RC, you should be able to also buy the batteries. Okay, on the back hole, we're tail heavy. On the front hole, we're tail heavy. Okay, so I can't even let go of it, okay? Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this plane back into the holster. We're gonna tip this down, we're gonna pull the canopy, and we're gonna try to slide that sucker all the way forward, okay? This is so weird to open. Okay, so it comes off. I mean, it's kind of a neat thing that you can do that, but it's kind of annoying too. Okay, so this is way back. Those leads are gonna be a pain in the neck.
The
okay?
motor leads?
Yep, because we are gonna be up in that business. I just popped my stupid this thing back in, look. Show the people.
Oh.
See that?
Yeah.
I wonder if I could get heat to this and just like relax that plastic back. But I do not want to be fighting that while I'm flying because it's like, it's annoying. Okay. So I'm going to slide this forward. Okay. So that it's like all the way forward. Now, the other thing is this strap can also slide forward. Okay. So I'm going to go like quite a bit.
Okay.
That's not up to the firewall, but it's getting close. Okay. Now, I'm gonna put this in here. I'm not sure that I can just halfway it. I think I have to actually put it all the way on. It's on. I was tail heavy on both points.
Okay.
What do you mean by tail heavy, Brian? I mean that it balanced. It wants to tip back out of my hands, okay? So now I just balanced my finger on the back hole and my finger on the back hole. And now we are closer, but it's still tail heavy on both holes, okay? So what that tells me is we're gonna need to either add nose weight or we're gonna have to use a bigger battery or slide it forward a little bit more. Now, forward a little bit more is probably still okay, but we don't got much room to go, okay? Slide this out. I don't have a ton of room in there. Yeah, see, that I can slide that all the way out. So let's just unplug it. I think we've established that this battery is gonna probably be a little bit too light for this plane, okay? And to be honest, I prefer to fly planes on the smallest battery that they can handle. But in this case, we get more weight out in front of it. This is considerably bigger battery, okay? By a factor of 20% bigger. Okay, so slide this in. And there's bolts that come up through the wing that are going to hug this. That's not cool. But it does keep it centered. These bolts.
Oh, I noticed that in the back. I didn't think about the battery.
Yeah, I didn't either until just now. Okay, so
that is a wide battery.
It's a weirdly wide battery. This is China Hobby Line. 70C, so we'll see how that works. Okay, now careful. Quick throttle cut is on.
Okay.
Verified. Okay, so we'll get this plugged in. Get it level. Lots of beeping, lots of things happening. When you hear an ESC arm for like many, many years the same way, and then all of a sudden it arms differently, it's weird. Like the beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
There should be, well, it's the number of cells. So beep, 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 beep. And that means no braking, 6 cell. So this did all sorts of other crap.
Yeah.
Throttle cut's on.
And it's loud.
And it's loud. Yeah. Big motor, lots of resonance on the way that this thing is set up. So it echoes, vibrates. Okay, so now on the back hole and on the back hole, we are still not quite there. We're still, we're close on the back hole. Front hole, it's gonna be tail heavy. Goodness gracious. So I think what we've learned here is you may end up needing to have some weight up there or remove weight from the back.
Or the CG
is just garbage.
Isn't right.
Which has happened.
Yeah.
So I just want to point something out though. Look, I've got a little room to go. I'm gonna go forward. That's probably gonna get us where we need to be. That is crazy. That is almost certainly going to work. I'm about to confirm it. And then I'm gonna mark my plane because that's nuts. 6,000 70C.
That's a big battery.
It's a big battery and all the way forward. These are the types of things that you'll see from a HobbyKing model that you won't see on some of the other competitive offerings, is that you will have to kind of work at it a little bit. That I can live with.
Yeah.
That's on the back hole. The front hole, it's tail heavy, but that's the way it's gonna be. So guess what? If the plane's tail heavy, that just means it's more responsive, which means it might be what you want and it might be what you need. So I'm not saying you can't use the smaller batteries, but it's gonna be tail heavy without adding nose weight. Now, where are you gonna add nose weight? The furthest part of in front is where you want it. Okay, so if you have to add nose weight, you want to add as little as possible and still get the job done. So it would be at the tip of the spinner. That spinner is not coming off for me ever, because that was a pain in the butt. So now, what do we normally do, camera crew, when we have a new build?
Mark it,
Yep.
you mean? Yes.
So I'm gonna take this, and incidentally, this strap can actually, ooh, there is more. I can go further.
If you move the strap.
I can move it forward. Yeah. The strap slides. I think I'm gonna go forward. I'm gonna just go here, and I'm gonna say 6,000, 6,000, 6S, okay? And there's gonna be an arrow like this, which means going all the way forward, okay? Now I'm gonna line it up with my mark, so I'm getting it close, and then we're gonna test again, okay? That should get us to where we're right smack dab in the middle. And shoulda, woulda, coulda. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, okay? All right, guys. So hopefully we've answered all your questions and then a little bit more here on Brian Phillips RC. If you're brand new to the channel and you're like, man, it's actually kind of helpful having somebody, leaning forward. That's the back hole. Front hole, still probably tail heavy. But that makes me feel more confident, a lot more confident, okay? So here on Brian Phillips RC, we go through a lot of effort to make sure that you can get your plane in the air and find success. If you're watching this thinking, oh, you're just trying to sell a plane. Of course we are, you know, but at the end of the day, that's not our primary objective. Our objective is to create people that are very interested in the hobby, that love this hobby, that help perpetuate this hobby, because guess what happens when you buy a bunch of planes and everybody, your buddies buy a bunch of planes? It drives down the cost, it drives up the quality, and everybody wins. Because I love this hobby. I love airplanes. I mean, obviously, look at my living room. Look at this, guys. Imagine living here and putting up with this.
Yeah.
You know, this is just one room in our house. We have other rooms.
We do.
That room's stuff with them. Our basement's stuff with them, at least half of it right now. We're going through some construction right now. Then we have 2 shipping containers.
The boys' room is stuffed.
And we're getting ready to build a 60 by 104 by 20 structure, a lot of which is going to be storing airplanes like this. And I have a really creative solution that's hopefully gonna work well. I'm not gonna talk too much more about that because I don't wanna let the cat out of the bag, but it's gonna be awesome. And I'm gonna be able to go and pull an entire rack and bring it down with the forklift, pull my plane, fly my plane, put my plane away, put it back in the storage. It's gonna be phenomenal. We'll wait and see if that actually happens. In the meantime, we're gonna fly this plane and it's gonna be awesome, okay? Obviously not right now, it's dark. Forward-facing white lights, red and green lights, no stupid flashes like FMS likes to do.
And they're on the wingtip so you can see them from
and
front of the
they
plane.
glow on the outside perimeter. Guys, having a little tiny LED that looks gorgeous is cool. I want to see it.
Yeah.
My primary objective is to know where I am in time and space with my RC aircraft. That's a safety issue, that's a flight, you know, convenience issue, and it's all also, at the end of the day, a beauty issue, okay? But I'm more concerned about being able to see this from different angles, which, by the way, you can see it from a lot of angle before that thing disappears. You see the red?
Yep.
You can still make it out, but you can see the green
Then
more
you can
intensely.
see it as soon as it tips down past, you can see it on the bottom again.
And that's gorgeous.
Yep.
Also, I gotta say, landing gear, let's go ahead and put it on its gear. Camera crew, help me please. Pull it out. Oh, that is gonna be so good. Those mains feel like they have a little resistance on them. I gotta say, it looks like the FW 190 landing gear, just a little shorter.
Yeah.
Those things are huge and inboard and canted forward. But yet they're solid. I don't understand how it's even possible.
Yeah.
This thing is gonna look good in the air, and I think it's gonna look really good on the ground because you can see it right now. Okay, so you also notice I never measured deflection, not even a once. Do you wanna know why? Because I don't do that. That is a good way to get a good outcome. But we have a stabilizer, we have expo, and we have experience. If you have none of those, you definitely should measure, okay? I don't even have a plane measurement tool, okay? Well, I kind of do, I have this thing, which is designed to measure the pitch on
pitch
helicopters.
gauge, yeah.
It's a digital pitch gauge, but that's designed for helicopter blades, not necessarily the pitch of a control surface. That thing goes on there, it clamps on, looks like one of those things you put on your motorboat where you can run water into it to keep it cool.
Huh.
You got all excited when I started talking about motorboats. Okay, so hopefully we answered all your questions and we didn't leave you hanging on too many of them. Part of the reason that we go through such great lengths to give you guys all this information is because we want you to have a good experience. Obviously within that is gonna be, we want you to watch our videos. We want you to come back. We want you to like and subscribe and share the joy of the hobby right here on Brian Phillips RC. And so if you even remotely enjoyed this video and you've watched all of it, please smash the like button. It helps us. We run long format and we get penalized constantly by YouTube for doing long format. They want everything to be shorts and they assume everybody just sits on the toilet and watches videos all day long and they don't do anything useful with their life. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we make shorts too, but it's out of our long format content so that you can see the highlight reels and then you can go and collect the full bit of information that you're looking for, okay? We're gonna help you get it out of the box. We're gonna help you set it up so that you can be flying a plane just like this. If you expect it to be easy, you're in the wrong hobby. It is hard when you're new. If it's something you're coming back to, we're gonna get you up to speed, but you have to be patient. It's gonna take 3, 4, 5 setups before you're comfortable doing it all by yourself. But then, and only then, you'll realize, oh, I can go through an entire setup, start to finish, in maybe 10 minutes, okay? And I can do that. Without filming, I can easily do that,
Yeah.
okay? And I do occasionally have to do that for my friends. But don't cut corners. Make the audio vents. Make it talk to you. Make it display the information. Use the functions. This is one of the most expensive tools you're gonna have in the hobby, and you're gonna get more and more value out of it, and you're gonna divide the cost every time you add a new plane, okay? We have added many, many, many planes, helicopters, quads, VTOLs, and that sort of thing, okay? I think we even have one on here that's not even a plane. I had this thing that went on the end of my stick of shame, and I could like put it up on the roof, and it had,
Oh
like,
yeah, that's right.
pincer grips, and it moved pan and tilt for a FPV gear. But at the end of the day, we love doing this stuff because we know we're gonna actually bring a positive change to the hobby. Not like there's anything wrong inherently with the hobby, but here's the thing. There is some level of miscommunication from manufacturing all the way to distribution to you, okay? They assume you know what you're doing. We assume you don't. So we're gonna teach you how to make it work. If you know what you're doing, you don't need to watch this video, but if you watch this video in spite of that, we appreciate you guys. And we really do appreciate your patronage over the years, especially as you've gotten good enough to not need it, okay? So we really do appreciate that here on Brian Phillips RC. It is not lost on us, that detail, okay? We've been in this for 10 years, and many of you have gone through the entire ranks that we've done on this channel, and you have gone way past us, and you're into, you know, turbine jets and all sorts of stuff. More power to you. We're glad that you're here, but remember, everybody starts somewhere. And if this is your first time seeing a video and you're like, I love the Yak, I went to this race once and I saw this plane and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I will have that plane on my shelf someday. Okay, fine, we'll help get you there. Is this the plane to start with? Probably not. First of all, it's got a very expensive battery. You need a big expensive charger, okay? You're gonna need a programmable transmitter, which you don't necessarily have to have a programmable transmitter to fly an airplane. But I'm gonna tell you this, as soon as you know you're hooked, don't mess around, get the best one you can afford. You will use the heck out of it, okay? We're gonna give you good substantive advice just like that every time we do a video. Sometimes you will have heard something 400 times. Forgive us. We've got all the new people with us, all right? So if we didn't answer your questions, leave it in the comments below. If you wanna be a Patreon supporter and support us on a monthly basis, we would look forward to seeing you on Patreon. There's links in the video description below. Same thing with YouTube members. Thanks for being members. We appreciate you guys doing that. It's awesome. Or if you want to be a YouTube super thanker, super thank yourself. We appreciate you. And then also PayPal for those of you that want to donate because you just can't bring another plane into your house or your wife has threatened to bury you in the backyard. Don't get buried. Support us that way instead. But if you really want to support Brian Phillips RC, the best possible way It's by watching, liking, subscribing, clicking the bell for notifications, and then when you see a plane you just can't live without, you buy it from the links in the video description below. That helps us to support the vendors, distributors, manufacturers that we work with that send us planes so we can make content, and that also helps us to earn small commissions through these affiliates, okay? If you wanna help support us, that's a #1 way to do it. If you're supporting us in those other ways, we really appreciate you, but it's all comes back to we want to perpetuate the hobby. That's what we love, okay? Or what I love. My wife tolerates. Also, if you wanna buy a transmitter and you're looking to upgrade, listen to us. We're not gonna sell you something more than you need, but we are gonna help you understand what you might want, okay? That's why we do this. That's why we talk about this stuff. Also, receivers, these aren't the cheapest, but they are on the cheaper end of the spectrum. Haha, pun intended. You can spend a lot more than what we show in our videos, just to be clear. You can also spend less, and there's nothing wrong with that if you get a real tight budget. We showed a Lemon RX offering, and we have links to that. And we will put it in our links of the video description below. Also, with batteries, we understand there's a plethora of batteries online. We prefer smart batteries. By the way, the 7000 6S would probably balance this thing out very nicely, okay? The 5000 is probably a little light, to be honest. We run out of strap holding, so it's probably not gonna work in this plane for us. So we're gonna be using 6000 6S, 70C China Hobby line packs. And we may end up having to go up to 7000 6S in the smart line. Also, what have we done on this plane? We have unboxed it, we built it, we set it up so that all the surfaces worked, we made adjustments, we made mechanical adjustments, we got everything going the right direction. Then we set up all the flap system. We set up Expo dual rates. Then we did forward programming. Then we refined AS3X and safe, and we set up our gains. Then we checked it all, including throttle cut, so we can keep ourselves safe, as well as balancing the plane on the center of gravity and mark the plane so that we know how to test the center of gravity. So we took you from the box to the air. If you're looking for the flight is a separate video, okay? So hopefully you haven't watched this whole thing waiting for the flight. The flights happen in a separate video. And then this publishes right at the time where we publish our flight video, okay? So if you are like, hey, that was awesome, it is enough information to make me feel confident that I could do this myself, you're in the right place. And every plane that you see out here, we've done. Just like that. Every one of them. Every helicopter you see back there. Every plane, every heli. And this is just a few of them. We've got literally thousands of videos that are just like this to give you the exact step-by-step help you need. And we hope you'll be back to enjoy another one. We literally have so much right around the corner, right around there, floor to ceiling, stacked, ready for you and your viewing pleasure. And we appreciate you guys being here with us on Brian Phillips RC. If you're watching this at Christmas, as you can see the Christmas tree with lots of P-51s crashed into it. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If you're watching this at some other time of year, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Valentine's Day, Happy birthday, whatever it is that you're celebrating, happy that thing. But at the end of the day, we want you guys to be happy in RC. And the best way to do that is to get the right plate at the right time. We're gonna help you do it. Thanks for watching, guys. That's all we got for you tonight. Come back for more.